Full city council meeting for February 21st, 2023. The clerk will call the roll for attendance.
Anderson Burgos,
Presente.
Bartley,
Here.
Grivner,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Maldonado Velez,
Here.
McGee,
Here.
McGivern,
Here.
Murphy Rumboletti,
Here.
Coelho,
Here.
Israel Rivera,
Here.
Jenny Rivera,
Here.
Tallman,
Here.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
In the city of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
First item on the agenda is item 1, which was laid on the table. I think we're still waiting. 2 is public comment. We do have 2 signed up for tonight. First one is Ms. Hamill from 231 Oak Street. If you are going to speak, please, your full name, address, and just a reminder, it is a minute and a half, around a minute time. I'll just give a wave, just to let you know where we stand. With that, I turn it over. Is the mic on? Just,
Yeah, I tapped it.
all right, off to you. Thank you.
Hi, Catherine Hamill again, 231 Oak Street. Was here the last meeting, and I wanted to come back because to make sure that it is first and foremost in your minds. I know you have other agenda material to cover, but the tree issue is like citywide. I sent some pictures to the mayor's assistant, Stephen, and I sent some pictures to Councilwoman Givner. And there's a lot of trees that are even on people's property, and they are going over the grass belt, the sidewalk, and into the street. I know the city's been built since the early 1900s. The trees are probably 100 years old or more. However, back to back with oak and linden, accountability is what we're looking to define. And if we need to readdress and change how the ordinance is written right now, because the tree that fell down beginning of February
Just add a minute.
was rotted, and I've got pictures. And there was another time in August of 2021 that actually another one previously had fallen down and took the power out. So the person needs to be, in my opinion, held accountable. And I'm going to give you the pictures because I got pictures. Did I cover?
You are good.
Okay.
Next is Tyrone Bowie, Jr. 118 or 218 Walnut Street.
Hi, my name is Tyrone Bowie Jr. I'm from 218 Walnut Street. I would like to start with a quote. There's not enough people like you to have something like that done. I've been told by many people in power here in Holyoke, but more recently by our current mayor, Josh Garcia, February 2022, when I asked if in late February we can hold a celebratory activity for the Black community members of Holyoke, commending them for their work that they do in Holyoke. I'm here to ask today if the Community Council holds the same ignorant, prejudiced form towards our Black community of Holyoke, or can we on May 16th this year hold a celebratory activity for our Black community leaders of the Northern Black American descent. And the reason why I picked this day is because on today, the 21st of February, is 57 years after Malcolm X's demise, that I have to stand here today and ask that we still get equality for the Black community of Holyoke. I yield my time.
Thank you. Is there anyone online? Spencer Fox Peterson online.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Name and address.
Yes, I'm Spencer Fox Peterson from 51 Portland Street, Ward 5. My concern isn't on the agenda tonight, but I wanted to voice my concerns about more reports being reported by New England Public Media about issues within the Holyoke Police dealing with citizen complaints, and want to address Mayor Josh Garcia's response. I found wholly inadequate and basically rewording the same thing. To me, it's. Anyways, I encourage my fellow constituents to look this stuff up. This department's costing us a lot of money. We could spend that money elsewhere. And the same old excuse in the police audit, as Josh Garcia mentioned, was they don't have enough money. And that's always the excuse when they've been found to be in improper or in bad light. I find that excuse tiring. We've been doing this excuse and ring around the rosies since back when police were primarily slave catchers. So we need to address that. We can do that here in Holyoke, and I recommend everybody who's listening, who's intrigued by what I have to say, please look into abolition, and we can find better ways to make our community safer. The police are a money pit. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. President, just a point of clarification, Portland Street is not in Ward 5.
Ward 6.
Ward 6, I misspoke. Thank you.
There are members in the audience that did not see the sign up. So I'd ask the council.
Motion to allow them to speak?
Second.
In favor? All opposed?
Aye.
So if you missed the sign up sheet, you can come to the mic and your name and address, please.
Hi, Polo Delgado, 32 Willow Street, Ward 3. I'm just here to support our raise for the NAGE union and the retro that we deserve, and we're overworked and we're underpaid compared to our department heads and our counterparts in Chicopee and South Hadley.
Thank you.
And we've been without a contract for almost a year now. So and that's just all I have to say, sorry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that missed the sign up sheet? Please.
Short girl. Sharon Constantinitis, 17 Charles Street, Ward 3. I'm also here to support the passing of this contract and the retro. I, like many of my coworkers, have been here for those that have been here for a long time, have diligently done the work that's put before us, working through COVID and beyond. And oftentimes we work understaffed due to various reasons. So I am here to support that. Many raises went out last year, and again, we were a year to a year and a half without a contract, but we kept doing the work put before us. Many of us work night meetings. Some are compensated, some are not. So I'm just here to request that you consider bringing us up a little bit closer to those that are paid in the surrounding community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the chamber or online?
Hi, my name is Brian Yabernetsky. I'm the senior custodian of the city of Holyoke. I do not live in Holyoke, but I have been here in the city for 12 years, and I am here for NAGE to make sure that our union contract gets pushed through and everything that belongs with back pay and the rest of what we've asked gets pushed through.
Anyone further? Anyone online? Seeing none, hearing none, move on to communications. 2 is the middle school building project.
Receive for the Committee on Finance.
Motion to receive for the finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 3 is from the mayor reappointing Nelson Lopez to the Citizens Advisory Committee. It will be a one-year term which will expire June 30th, 2024.
Motion approved.
Motion is to receive, adopt, and approve the reappointment.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, Counselor Jordan.
All in favor of Nelson. He's a very hardworking person, but I did want to ask a question. Are you allowed to be a fire commissioner and be on another committee or commission?
Well, if it's a reappointment, then obviously that was already vetted, but we can always,
No. We may be assuming too much. Was it vetted? I don't know. Maybe this doesn't fall into that, because this is, is this Citizens Advisory Committee? This might be just the thing helping out for, I think, ARPA, right? So maybe it's not
CDBG,
really
Kev?
like a real, I mean, they do a lot of important work, or is this the one with the marijuana? I'm not 100% sure, but I did want to just say, somebody should look at that if you're allowed to serve on multiple commissions.
do you want to send it to Public Service to?
No.
Counselor Bartley.
I don't have a problem approving it, subject to them just being looked at and let us know. If it's not an issue, it's not an issue, but if it is, I didn't want to just let it go by and I didn't say anything in terms of asking the question.
Counselor Bartley.
I think the council raises a great point. However, I think what the Citizens Advisory Committee does, it basically supports the CDBG effort.
Okay.
And But I think we can appoint pending maybe a future communication from the law department. So I'll make a motion that we approve it, and then we we ask the law department to send us a communication on the topic raised by Councilor Jordan.
All right, so
Second.
Counselor,
I speak against the amendment. I have a problem when we adopt something that we wish to adopt while we wait for an advisory opinion from the law department. Law department advisory opinions are not binding, and I'd like to hear the opinion before I take a final vote. We did this for Nelson, I think, the last appointment, which I believe was last year, and we got the information back that it was okay because the Citizen Advisory Committee is, one, does have no stipend, and they're volunteers, and two, all they do is advise. You know, they have a very important role with block grant monies, but at the same time, it's not like the Fire Commission where they're setting policy, voting on personnel issues, and things to do with the chief. And I'll stop there. So, but I just have a problem. I respect our law departments and probably will go with whatever their opinion was, but it's not binding. So I think we can't. I don't think I could take a final vote without knowing what the opinion is.
Counselor Jordan first, then
Thank
Counselor
you.
Bartley.
Now, if I was listening carefully and understood you correctly, you're saying it was already looked into previously, this question of being on both. If that's already been looked at and approved, then I'm good. I was just raising the question of could that be done? If that's already been answered, I'm all set, because Nelson is a very good candidate. Just want to make sure it's okay.
Counselor Bartley.
I would echo that. I mean, I think this committee, Mr. President, as you know, I think they meet once or twice, maybe 3 times, in preparation for CDBG as part of the federal process. So I just wanted to be sure, but I have no issue supporting Nelson tonight, and then perhaps we can file a separate order down the road just to verify. I have no recollection of the past opinion by the law department relative to this. So, but I'm very comfortable supporting Nelson in this position.
Counselor McGivern.
Just to clarify, we discussed it. I don't remember exactly if we got an
okay.
opinion back, but the point was raised at the last year ago.
But we didn't get an answer, Joe.
My memory doesn't go that far back, Kevin. No.
I do believe we did. I do believe it was. That's why I said I thought we brought it up.
Okay.
But
If you
I've aged well. So.
I'll just make a motion to be approved then.
second
I
it.
can ask offline if it's I doubt it's a major issue.
So, first motion was to approve, go to legal. It was seconded.
Yeah, I'll withdraw it because it doesn't sound like we need it.
That motion's been withdrawn.
So that's been withdrawn. So motion is to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. On to 4, which is a nominate the following individual to continue serving on the Citizens Advisory Board.
Motion to
This is-
approve.
Motion approved,
this is Gary
second.
Gibson, so this once again is a 1-year term. Motion to be receive, adopt, and approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5 is the minutes of the February 7th, 2023 meeting.
Receive and approve.
Second.
Motion is to receive and
Is there
adopt.
discussion?
Any questions on that? Yep.
Yeah. can I just suspend rules, go to the President's Administrative Assistant for a second? Excellent minutes, Jeff, as always. Would you please just add page numbers on there for me, if you would? Thank you. That's my only small edit. Thank you.
Anyone further? All right, so motion is receive and adopt the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
President, can I make a motion to suspend the rules to take items 6, 7, and 9 as a package?
Second.
And refer to the archives of the City Council Finance Committee.
Motion is to take up 6, 7, and 9 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6 is a agreement, or the red line agreement for local R1-180. And then 7 is from Lisa Ball, the city solicitor, with regards to the local 409 police supervisors. And then 9 is the grant for the SAFE fiscal year 22 fund. All those to finance for archiving. All those in favor?
Discussion?
Sorry, Councilor Bartley.
Okay, so I'm not clear on number 7. Why are we sending a police supervisor's contract for July 1, 22 to June 30, 25 to archives?
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not clear on why we're doing this.
We are required by ordinance to receive copies of contracts prior to we take votes. Both of these items are coming out of the Finance Committee, for which we vote on appropriations that are connected to them or recognize an appropriation that is already in the budget that is connected to the MOA. That would be item number 6. The reason I'm referring is this is the official receiving of these through the city clerk's office. So it's more of housekeeping just to put them in the archives. We try to keep all of the MOAs and MOUs that we receive over the years in a folder connected to finance, so we can refer back to them, similar to when we get and when we should be getting redlined budgets after negotiations. So we have a history of what the contracts were, changes were, and things of that nature. That's why we. As a city council, everybody received these by emails, I think about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. The finance committee, used it when they worked on the appropriations, and now it's just, to me, housekeeping to make sure we keep copies in the archives.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, and Kevin, I'm just gonna be quick, Kev. So I think because in terms of public interest, Mr. President, can you tell me what are the archives? Does Jeff they're available under the finance page online? 'Cause I think they'd be worth for public interest. So can you just explain what by archiving or?
The archive items they're available in a Google Drive folder. I haven't had them in the online link, but I can certainly do that.
So are you on the microphone, Jeff?
So they're in a Google Drive for storage purposes. However, he can put them online.
Yeah, and is that permissible for the president?
It's public record.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I would prefer that they would be accessible to the public, as opposed to just our Google Drive, that if the administrative assistant could do that, and if that's all right with the rest of the body.
Yeah, it's not uncommon that we send stuff for archiving for next time, but if you want to make sure it's posted, we can do that.
I'd like to.
Or he can.
Thank you.
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, briefly, a couple points. I appreciate the law department putting this together very quickly. If you'll recall, I also have an ordinance change on the agenda for later this evening, which kind of seeks this in the future. Because if you recall, counselors, when we get these agreements, we only get the list of the changes. You don't get the whole agreement to say, what was it the before language? You're only seeing the after language. So by getting the red lines, I wanted it so you can see the whole document, exactly what it was changed, so you can evaluate good or bad. So I do appreciate them sending these along real quick. And after we vote on this, I was going to suggest, if we could, to do a suspension of the rules on these 2 items, because we do have people here waiting to hear how these go. So if that would be okay, I'd like to make that motion after this is done.
All right, so Councilor McGivern was next.
Real quick, both Councilor Bartley and Councilor Jordan make good points. Just 2 things. One, historically, the archives, before we had the current present administrator to the city council, the archives were just a backup folders of committees, and we tried to find things when we could find them. And now it's a pleasure to understand we can hit a link and find everything, and especially with those items that are waiting to be discussed in committee. They're all on the city website. There's a link. You just hit the link, and you can see what's ever in any committee. And I think it's good points by Councilor Bartley and Jordan about, having information available. I don't know when we got away from the red line contract, because we've asked that and asked that and asked that, but I think they've heard us, and we're going to get it from now on before we start having discussions in committee.
And Mr. President?
Councilor Bartley.
Just, I know it's my third time, but it'll be brief. So just I want to say thank you to Lieutenant Pelcher for sending the report, because that's another help. I hope I know the administrative assistant is organizing all those as well for grants, so that department heads, when you get a grant, do the best you can and send us a summary at the end of it, and it's helpful to us and it's helpful to the public. So thank you to Lieutenant and the fire department.
So seeing no one further, 6, 7, and 9 to finance to be put in archiving. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now there's a motion from Councilor Jordan to go to which ones, Councilor?
I think we should, let's do 16B, if that's okay first, Mr. Chairman.
So
over there.
16B.
Make a motion to proceed to 16B, but take up 16I at the same time.
I'll second it.
Yep.
So motion is take up 16B and 16I out of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 16B is Committee on Finance, a settlement agreement between the Police Officers Local 409. Recommended that be adopted. And then I is $51,952 from sick buyback, HPD supervisors MOA, to captains, lieutenants, and sergeants for the same amount. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Counselor McGivern. Before I hand that over to you, Counselor, I didn't pull the name. Counselor McGivern pulled the name. Counselor Jordan will vote.
I object. We never tell who pulls the name to go first.
I didn't say anything. I held a can. Someone pulled the name.
Back to back, huh?
Oh, that's right. Hey. Wish it was the 50-50 raffle, unfortunately.
Supposed to be anonymous.
Okay.
Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met and had a very healthy discussion on all our items, but in particular the police Brotherhood of Police Officers, known as 409, and an MOU that was put before us. We had the auditor, the law department, representations of the union, all present at one time to talk about the proposed collective bargaining and to talk about what is our responsibility, the money that will pay for the negotiated contract. Just a reminder, we don't negotiate contracts. We're not allowed to interfere or intervene when a contract is being negotiated. However, we do have a vote, which is the final vote on a contract, when it comes to the appropriation for the said changes in any union, any collective bargaining. The increases for this particular group is effective July 1st of 2022, a 2% increase. July 1st, 2023, another 2% increase. And July 1st, 2024, a third and final 2% increase. There are a number of other things. Some have financial impacts and some don't, that are changed in the contract, but they're all important to understand. And we did go over with the law department and with the officers about what some of it was. One of the changes was arbitration, and it's just to note that there was a typo language, which we know Scrivener errors can be very destructive if they're not corrected immediately, and that was changed in item number 4 on the MOU, which is article, I have no idea because it's Roman numerals, but it's something like just that one typo change of N to N, and they fixed that. We had another couple of other interesting things. the one-time payment, there was a one-time bonus payment, and that was dealing with the per diem rate that was effective on June 20th to any bargaining member. And we talked about going back prior years, and the law department responded to that and citing the precedent and how they do it and how they felt it was okay to do it. The increase overall, well, let me back up real quick before I forget what we're really voting on. And the transfer to pay for the salary increases is coming from a line item in the current budget known as sick buyback, particularly $51,952, broken down into 3 line items: captains $9,409, lieutenants $16,218, sergeants $26,325. That will cover this year. That will, if we vote on it favorably, that would solidify the contract, but it would also do so for the 3-year contract itself, which is important to know. We had the auditor who broke down and gave us some estimated numbers as to what future years' impacts will be. They change, of course, because even though they're 2% raises, the base goes up the first year, the base goes up the second year, and so on. But we had a healthy discussion about a number of different things, including the education bill, the Quinn bill, and longevity. Most of our superior officers are still under the Quinn bill. They are grandfathered, but upon retirement, the education plan of the city for superior officers will not be changed. It will remain a flat rate for each degree, associates, bachelors, and a master's, so forth. Pretty much that's the nuts and bolts of what's being proposed here. And the committee also had a healthy discussion led by Councilor Jordan on overall impact and affordability. And outside of that, the committee not outside of that, even with all that, the committee recommends passage of the appropriation, which would be the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement itself.
Anyone further? Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, Chairman makes a great summary. I'm just going to add a couple points that I think are important on behalf of the city. Now, obviously, these are highly compensated employees. We do get, I'm sure you get questions about, hey, look at you look at the top 100 salaries. A lot of the employees that are in here. Not all of that, it should be noted, is city funds. A lot of it also is road detail work and things that are paid by private vendors. And a number of these individuals work a lot of hours. So I did want to point out that the overall, I thought this agreement was very balanced. And I want to make a couple observations on that point. So I want to give credit where credit is due with the city and to the union for that matter. First of all, modest rate increases of the 2%. So that was reasonable in light of what the inflation and otherwise is doing to everybody today. And we do need to give cost of living adjustments to all of our employees. Relative to the big ticket item, and by the way, I'll back up and say on the educational incentive, it is increasing by about $1,800 for associates, $2,600 for bachelor, and $3,000 for masters. Most of except for I think 3 of the 27 are not going to currently get those changes. But in time, the new people phasing in will get it. But they're already getting it based on another agreement that was given to the patrolmen's union already. So it actually would have resulted in a pay cut in that regard. So it was sort of one of these weird things. Why the patrolmen should have gotten that, I'll leave for the mayor and the law department to answer. But relative to this in time, I thought that was a reasonable approach when you consider the next point, which I'm going to make is, and this is the big one in this, and this is why I'm wildly embracing this, is the sick leave change. This is a big change. Currently, there's a cap at 250 days that people can cash in on currently for sick leave. That is reduced from 250 down to 120 days in this contract. That is a big difference. When you consider how much some of these individuals get paid, you take 130 days multiplied by 27 employees, cashing out. Counselors, we've seen this, right? We've seen some big payouts in this room. I think, I won't mention names, people can look it up if you want a trivia game, but I remember we had one that was $315,000. That was a payout. And we need, as a city, to get that number down to a manager. We can't be getting tackled at a retirement with some $100,000, $200,000 bill. Those are just killer. And it's not anything that other employees in the city get, quite frankly. And for what I've been told, not really anybody in other departments. So I want to give credit to the union for recognizing that, to their credit. That is a big, big give back to the city to reduce that in half. So that is really appreciated, and that is going to, save the city some serious, serious money in the future. So when you consider that, and you consider the small increase in the Quinn, and you consider the small, 2% COLA adjustment, this is a very balanced agreement. In light of our financial situation, I certainly support it. And obviously, on another note, I would be remiss if I didn't say what a difficult job and an ever more difficult job each of them have. And we're so thankful for the work of our Holyoke Police Department, and especially in these times. It doesn't get any easier. I did have one technical question. I don't know if the chairman or others have gotten an answer to it yet, but there was one retro holiday back to a prior fiscal year. I don't know if we ever got that answer yet, but they said they were looking into it for us. Hopefully we'll hear at some point. But technically there is a state law that says you can't give retro back into a prior fiscal year, and I think there's one holiday in Article 14 that's going back to June 20th, 2022. But having said that, all things considered, do support this agreement. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor Tallman.
I just want to state that I really appreciate the work the men and women of the police department do. It's a fair contract, and as Councilor Jordan stated, futuristic savings of that, the buyback, the sick leave buyback is important down the road. That'll save the city a lot of money. It's not an easy job. It's difficult for people even today trying to apply for the job or fill the positions as people retire. So I think the raises are fair and just, and really appreciate the amount of work they do. Often I stop at a store or a gas station, see some of the police officers, chat with them, and get a little feel of what's going on there. And it's difficult. Sometimes some of these officers that work, they say 4 to midnight, have to stay on the next shift because there's nobody to fill in for them. And a lot of these workers, these police officers, have families, and it really sacrifices a lot for their families to be out there to protect the citizens of Holyoke. So I'm really, really grateful for the work they do.
Councilor Bacon.
Just briefly, I'd like to speak in support of this contract and also appreciate the balance with some of the give back on the sick time. Thanks.
Anyone further? Councilor Rivera.
I just got a couple clarifying questions because I'm new, right? The Quinn bill, just a quick breakdown for me, if that's possible, and for the people that are on TV. Maybe Kevin can do it because he sounds like he's got it down pat. And how much of a difference it would be with these increases to the budget overall, right? And I like I'm okay with like the educational piece, but I'm hearing that supposedly we're the only community that still pays the Quinn bill, or that still honors that. I'm not sure if that's true, so I'm just trying to get clarification. Then the other piece for me is like, it's just trying to, for me, just wrap my head around how a lot of money is going into the department. I am for the raises. If people want raises, I'm with it. I just would like it to be equitable across the board then, not just for a particular department, because everybody does deserve a raise, and if they do work hard, I give them that. They leave their families. There's risks that they take, but a lot of us take risks too when we leave our house to do our jobs too. I respect it 110%. If someone could give me a quick breakdown, and some of the people on the TV, because I'm gonna be honest with you, there are a lot of people watching, and they probably don't understand a lot of this stuff. So it would make sense for some of us to try to have a better foundation to make our votes from when it comes down to this. Thank you.
Yeah, with regards to the Quinn bill, other communities still do have it. As far as the breakdown, we can always get that from the auditor to provide that to you, unless someone already has that, whether it's Kevin or Joe. But if they don't, we can always get it to you.
I think there was a handout, Mr. President. Let's see, Northampton, Chicopee, Agawam, Westfield, West Springfield were surveyed in a report to the Finance Committee.
I guess what I'm asking, I'm sorry, is just for it to be, for like the people can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time. It's not just, because I can get an email and then I'll have it, but
Right.
like,
It's an incentive program to get your degree if you're in.
no, I know what the program is about. I totally understand it. I know everything about it. It's for the people.
Right, so you want to tell everyone who's watching what other communities have it. We can always post that online, or I know Councilor Jordan just named off a
Or
few.
someone can say it, but if they can't, I get it. That's fine.
No, you can say it.
I don't know what's so hard about it.
I think what I was saying was Northampton has it, Chicopee has it, Agawam has it, Westfield has it, West Springfield has it. So a number, and this is the educational incentive, so much for an associate, so much for a bachelor, so much for a master's. And I know the state changed the law back in 2009 where they used to pay half and and the cities paid half, and they stopped paying their half. And since then, some cities have changed it around, but others have not. And, it's certainly a widely debated topic of is it good, is it bad? But these other communities and Holyoke still have it. Ours is a flat rate. Most of the other communities are generally a percentage. Some are a flat rate.
Thank you.
So Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. Good questions, and I'm only going to add to it to Councilor Rivera, but the Quinn bill goes back to the 70s, 80s, and one of the mistakes the city made at that time was making it a percentage of the base salary as opposed to a flat rate. And that just inflates it over the years, and it kind of gets out of control. But the officers, almost all of our superior officers, are grandfathered because we had a big discussion about it when the state reneged on their 50% after decades of providing all municipalities who adopted the Quinn bill with 50% of what an officer earned by according to their degree, which is important because if you ever seen an officer testify in Superior Court or District Court, the college degree goes a long way when you put them on the stand. Numbers this year, with the 2% base increase, it triggers the Quinn bill for the current people who are working up to $7,951, which the total would be $405,488. If no one retires, next year the increase will be $8,110, and the following year $8,272. Any retirements, the Quinn bill portion goes away. And then the education incentive kicks in, which again is the flat fee. As Councilor Jordan did point out, there is a flat increase this time, but it's the first flat fee increase we've had since I think we started in 2010. So it is good. Everyone should know it. And the officers, patrol officers, are a little bit different because they somehow negotiated away their flat rate. But that's not on the agenda tonight.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Councilor Bartley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, well, since this is for the people, I want the people to understand a couple some smaller things for historical purposes. First of all, the Quinn bill is named after Speaker Robert Quinn from Dorchester, former Speaker of the House and former Attorney General. He preceded my father as Speaker. Second of all, I just want to amend something that my friend Kevin said, underline what my friend Joe said. It's still state law. Governor Patrick intentionally defunded it in 2009. It is still state law. When you have the state delegation come in, you can ask them, why don't they attempt to work with the governor to refund it? That was a debate we had here in 2012. It was very unpleasant. But the third thing I'm going to say is that the city of Springfield pretty much ended the debate for all time because they had binding arbitration saying, sorry guys, good luck. Congratulations, guys. That's going to be your benefit until such time as the money runs out. So the Springfield Police Department made that a de facto rule for the whole Commonwealth, as far as I'm concerned. So Holyoke has always paid its one half, Mr. President, well before I was on this board, but now the city of Holyoke pays its half and the Commonwealth's half. That's the debate we had back then. The Commonwealth, Governor Patrick defunded it. No debate on that, historical fact. And the legislature to this day has never refunded it, never attempted to. Historical fact. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera.
So we have to pay the other half by state law?
No,
Because that's what it sounded like, bro.
don't have to.
No, that's not what I said.
Well, I'm just asking, bro. My bad, bro. Calm down.
All right.
Damn.
All right. So on these two, are there any further questions? Any
Nope, I make a motion to be,
motion is
pass
to
the first reading.
First reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion has passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for B and I.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Coelho?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve those two.
Motion to take item number C out of order.
Motion to go to
16C.
items out of order to 16C. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 16C. Committee on Finance to refer to a settlement agreement by and between the City of Holyoke and the R1-180 Clerical Union. Recommend it be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as we did with the 409, we did the same with the R1-180 clerk, known as NAGE Clerical Union. We learned that the proposed increases, the collective bargaining increases as agreed upon and proposed with, I'll explain in 1 second with the appropriation, were fiscal year 2023, 2%, totaling around $45,804. Fiscal year 2024, 3%. In fiscal year 2025, it'll be a 2% increase. These increases are along the lines of COLA increases. We heard both from the union, from the city law department, and from our auditor on a number of different things as related to the impact on the increases. The money to pay for this is part and was included in the budget when we adopted it in the end of June, going into July 1st of this year, the current fiscal budget. We did have some discussion about that. It is not unprecedented, but Mayor Garcia is probably one of the first mayors in decades that has put money in a budget prior to an agreement coming to the city council. There's more than one way to do it, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. One of the more interesting things about this agreement, besides the percentage increases to the base salary, deals with a schedule with a number of individuals who are part of this union, mostly known as police clerks who work. Currently, it's a 4-on, 2-off. It's been renegotiated into a 5-on, 2-off. Essentially, the chief of police was with us, the auditor, and the law department. This makes a little bit more sense for the scheduling of these individuals and to try to keep the correct salaries for each of these individuals, but to avoid automatic or sometimes unnecessary overtime hours because of the way scheduling goes and the way the police department operates with 24/7 shifts. So they worked this out. Everybody was happy about that. And I think that's the gist of it with the monies. And we had a good, healthy discussion on this contract also. And the committee recommends adoption of the contract, which means the auditor can now use the money in the budget if we pass it this evening to pay for these increases.
Anyone further? Counselor Jordan.
Yeah, I was also going to say, Mr. President, I also am supporting this contract as well. Again, a 232 increase over the 3 years is reasonable, especially as we consider cost of living, and folks in this scale are not receiving the greatest of salaries to begin with. So to have some basic cost of living adjustment is very fair, and happy to vote yes for this.
Anyone further? Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, very much in support of this contract. I know several of the workers that are in this union, and they do work very hard. As we heard tonight, that some of them are been working over a year without a contract, and they sometimes work nights and evenings, and sometimes not getting compensated for it. So it's very important for us to acknowledge the work that they do on a daily basis, and very much in support of this contract.
All right, so, Counselor Rivera.
Yeah, I would like to just commend the people that came in to speak up on behalf of their union. I respect that 110%, and I'm also in support of the contract.
So the motion be pass the first reading.
So
All
moved.
those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 16C.
Jordan.
Yes.
Maldonado Velez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti.
Yes.
Puello.
Yes.
Israel Rivera.
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Givner.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve that one. Go back to 8. This would be from the Assistant City Solicitor, legal forms from ordinance passed at the February 7th, 2023 meeting. So this would be the legal forms for the stuff that we took up and sent over to have put in legal form. So the motion would be to pass the first reading.
Motion to pass the first reading?
Second.
Is there a second? So motion is to pass the first reading. Any discussion on this? Counselor Jordan.
Yep. So we have I could raise a few points of order here. Counselors, just so you're aware, there's a number of other rules. I don't feel it's really quite my job. Obviously, you know how vociferously I'm opposed to this. I'm going to get into when we ever have the discussion, but there's a number of rules here that still have not been suspended, right? So one is, let's see, you guys took care of the rule on removing from committee, check. Legal has placed it in the legal form, check, that's 9J. You've got a bunch of other ones here. 9H, legal's then required to mail it to all counselors, the clerk, and the mayor back to committee. Then if the committee approves, they're supposed to remail it out to everyone for the final approval meeting. That hasn't happened yet. That's Rule 9H. So I'll raise a point of order on 9H. You haven't done that yet. Next rule, 9F. There's no committee report. You're required to have a committee report. You have no written committee report. The committee never met on actually one of these or two of these items, and one was changed subsequently. So you have to have, under Rule 9F, that's an objection. And I'll save the other ones to see. I'll save the other rule issues if we get that far. So point of order under 9F and 9H.
So is there a question or just a ruling? Or?
Yeah, just say you're not postured to even have a vote yet because you haven't followed the rules. So you have to do those two things before the council's in a position it can vote under our rules.
Well, it was under suspension of the rules. The board voted 9-4 at the last meeting, suspend the rules, to then send it to legal to have it come back this way. So you suspended the rules at that vote.
You suspended.
Now, if you, I'm speaking.
I apologize.
If you would like, you can ask the legal department to address your points. You can always make a motion, get a second, and have legal address it. But as far as I saw it, it was a vote to suspend the rules, which we did.
To put it in
order to get it, to suspend all rules to have it come back this way. That's what you voted for. If you want to change that, you can ask legal. Is there a question to the legal department?
I guess we'll ask the legal department. I don't know if they want to get in the middle of this. That's fine. I'm happy to have them. But we suspended Rule 9J at the last meeting, which was to. I don't recall we suspended all rules of the entire city council. I don't believe that was the motion. Maybe we have to go back to the tape. But I believe the rule was we suspended 9J, that the council was going to send it to the law department to get the legal form without it going back to ordinance committee, because only ordinance committee can request something to be put in the legal form. I don't recall that those never came up. Well, why would you have come up with a suspension of 9F? You weren't even ready to vote yet on it.
Anyone further?
Mr. President?
Yeah,
I think the counselor's correct per the minutes that we approved earlier. We suspended, so it says that order that pursuant to Rule 9P that the following order be discharged from the ordinance. So I think it was just, and that's just based off the minutes. Thank you.
Anyone further?
Okay, so I'm happy if the president feels we should talk to the law department, sure, we can suspend the rules to have the law department address the city council throughout this entire matter. I'm fine with that. I'll make that motion
Second.
if that's helpful.
Hold on, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for ruling on the point of order. Well raised, good questions, but I accept your ruling on the point of order and suggest we go forward.
So there was a motion, it was seconded to have legal. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So, legal there. Mike? Did you hear the question?
Good evening.
I did. Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My understanding is that once you discharge the matters, the ordinances from committee, that eliminates any role for the committee going forward. It then puts the council pretty much in the shoes of the committee. Council then sends it to legal to correct legal form, sends it back to the council. I think that's where it stands tonight, and I would support the president's ruling.
Any questions for legal?
I have a question.
Councilor Jordan.
Yes, Mike, to the best of your recollection, do you recall at the last meeting if the council suspended the other rules relative to this matter, or only that the legal form be waived by the ordinance committee? And by the way, there's nothing in our rules, to rule on your point, there's nothing in our rules that states that if something's removed from committee, that the rules are suspended. It's just taking it out of committee. You have to suspend all these rules, and those weren't done at the last meeting. Now, maybe the people didn't know what rules they needed to suspend, but I do. I pay attention here, and I know the rules. So, and then, by the way, this isn't the first time this issue's come up before, by the way. You have to have a committee report. You don't have a committee report. So show me where in Robert's rules or in our rules that removing something under 9P dispenses with the committee's requirement to have a committee report.
I don't think there is. I think it's simple logic.
Logic.
Why would you discharge something from a committee if you wanted the committee to fulfill the responsibilities outlined under other rules? That would be disingenuous, I would think, to the purpose of taking out a committee in the first place.
You may be disingenuous. I'm just saying we have a standard of procedure here that is supposed to be followed. So now you have something in legal form. All orders to be voted on to be put into an ordinance form are required to have a committee report. We're not voting on the legal form. We're voting on the committee report on the legal form. That's the way this council's worked for how many decades? That's the way it works. You have no committee. That's in the Roberts rules, and it's in our rules. I mean,
if your position, Councilor, is that the council votes on committee reports and not the ordinances to be enrolled and ordained, that's incorrect. The council votes to adopt ordinances, as you point out quite correctly, makers of laws. So I think the surmise that it's a committee report, I think the minutes probably would not be consistent with that interpretation.
So hold on. So there is a question for legal. Counselor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was actually just going to ask the same question to clarify whether we vote on ordinance, the legal language of an ordinance, or a committee report, because I was under the impression we voted on what came from legal when it's ready to pass.
Is that to Mike? Is it? So that would be to legal. So to Mike.
If the question is, can it be passed tonight? Yes, it can. The votes either as enrolling or ordaining any other ordinance, you would need a majority to move it through the second reading and a 2/3 majority to enroll and ordain it this evening.
Okay, Counselor.
So my question was, do we vote on committee reports, or do we vote on the new ordinance that comes from legal?
You freeze.
Well, you don't have a committee report before you. All you have before you tonight is the ordinance, which was discharged from committee.
All right, next was Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I'm satisfied with your ruling to the point of order and think we can go forward. Sounds like the law department backed up your ruling. I understand the importance of rules, and I respect that, and rules are made to have exceptions, and this is not unprecedented. It's a little bit unprecedented to remove something from committee, but we've been faced in the past, whether it's an ordinance, a financial appropriation, a number of different times that we've had to pass it on the floor the same night we received it. And we've tried always to do what I thought committees were. They're to me, study groups. They're supposed to look, get the answers, ask the questions, get more answers, get as much material as possible for each of us, whether we go to the committee meeting or not, and have a final vote at the full city council meeting. So when we brought this out of committee, yes, it was not a unanimous, but 2/3 of the body did vote to take it out of committee. If 2/3 of the body's vote stays the same way, it's a moot point. You know, the rules have been suspended. We're just arguing rules, which is what made probably our longest meetings ever in these chambers, is when we start arguing rules. And I think the city solicitor said the rule, which was always my favorite, there comes a point when it's common sense and it's time to take a vote. And I suggest on the question, Mr. President.
Sure. Anyone else? Counselor Jordan?
Yep. Again, I make these points. I have a lot of points I'm going to make, but everyone's going to get the benefit of my talking points again. And I've got some new ones from 2 weeks ago. But I do point out that I care a lot about this institution. I care a lot about its rules. I think you should care too. And when we make these rules, today you might find them inconvenient. Tomorrow, you know, you may wish you had those rules. So I do want to just state that, you know, these rules do exist. They're not being followed. They weren't suspended. Basically, the proper thing would have been to suspend the rules, right? That would have been the proper format to do. People didn't know to do that. I'm pointing it out. Okay, moving on. So you want to just get into the merits of it at this point, Mr. President? Because I'm not going to appeal your decision of the ruling of the chair, because I know in advance I'll lose that vote. I know where the votes are on this, but I have other things I want to point out.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I think we're on first reading, correct?
We're on first reading.
Okay. You recognizing me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get into the merits of things. First of all, I want to point out that I happen to do a financial analysis. The financial analysis that never happened in committee, okay? we ask for financial analysis, and you should too, right? Before you vote on something, you should know what this is going to cost. And if I went around, started pointing fingers and said, give me a number what this is going to cost, I wonder how many people would be close, even within $5,000. I won't do that, but I really wonder, have you done a financial analysis of what this costs? Nobody did one for you. And you're theoretically planning to vote on this tonight with no financial analysis done for you. So let me go through a few things. First off, I'll tell you that, by the way, I also did find a typo in the legal form. Again, not my job. I'm paid about $7 an hour. I'll leave it to the law department to find their typo, and it happens to relate. It would have financial significance. It's not like "and" is missing a D, but there's actually a monetary numerical typo in there. You might want to relook at your legal form. First of all, there's 34 employees that are potentially impacted by this ordinance. The personal, I'm not sure which one exactly. Are we voting on all four of the proposals at one time, or are we taking these one at a time?
I do believe they're all sent as a package, so you'd be taking them up because it's
As a
coming in
package.
under as all of them as one, so it would be a package.
Okay. So we have, since I'll address this, the impact for the adding of a personal day is approximately $7,300. That's the adding of an additional personal day. Adding the vacation days was told to us to be in committee. I'll give you the number, which was inaccurate. I want to make sure I quote this correctly. $29,732. That's the potential impact. But you got to understand, counselors, this proposal changed from when it was originally introduced to the one that was late filed on December 20th. There was no proposal to have an added week to all of these vacations. The original proposal was to give the mayor discretion to add for new employees up to 2 additional weeks. The proposal changed, all right? I don't know if everybody's aware of that. That it went from to the new schedule, which is going to allow everybody an extra 5 days throughout, whether you're a new person or not, okay? Now, that has obviously impact. That is, I've calculated the potential impact of $57,570 if everybody gets what they're potentially eligible now, because this obviously raised it. So, and we have received, like I said, no updated financial analysis done. So these two proposals is about $65,000. I saw there might be a question, or?
No, she was just getting.
Okay, thank you. So that is obviously concerning, that when, despite the fact that I thought we've been fair with pay raises and the other increases that have been made, that we're now adding staff, allowing flex schedules, giving pay raises, removing residency rules, and now to the point that we're increasing, in some cases dramatically, the amount of time off. It's really staggering. When I look at the current, and again, the mayors, who I have a ton of respect for, and I really like Mayor Garcia, and I think he's doing a great job, he says in his communication in support of this advances greater work-life balance. The question of balance is a great one, because I don't think we don't, after this adoption of this potentially, that we have a sufficient work-life balance. Here, under the current proposal, that people already only work 35 hours a week, not a 40-hour work schedule. That extra 5 hours a week off gives everybody here versus a normal private sector 40-hour week job an additional 32.5 days per year. When we talk about work-life balance, the citizens who pay the bills, that's what they have to do in order to give us the money to hand these things out. So the question is, what is fair? So the whole issue about is how much time off should people have? Well, you're already given 5 extra hours off every week. So 32 and a half days right there versus a normal private sector job. Next up, the vacation is currently for employees under 5 years is currently 10. It's going to go to 15. And then if the mayor likes you, it'll go to 20. Because it's totally up to his discretion. He has no criteria, totally if he deems it that you need an increase. 15 sick days, 12 holidays. Then we already know there's 1 to 2 gifts that are given out for days, be it snow days or the day after Thanksgiving. We already have those. 3 personal days will be increased to 4. So now, under the new scenario, you're talking people already have 40 days, plus these 2 that I said, this is at the low end, mind you. Then you're going to have an additional 53 days. So currently 42 days. So they're around 74 and a half. That will increase to 85 and a half days. That's at the low end. Per person? Yes, per person. 85 and a half days. Now divide that by 5. You know, work-life balance, that's what the people, the regular folks of Holyoke are all getting 85 and a half days off a year from their jobs. No problem, nothing to see here. That's going to then build up to 85 and a half days, as I mentioned. And then if you keep going, as you get more seniority, you'll get the 32 and a half that you have the reduced work schedule. You'll get now up to a max of 30 days off under the new rule. You'll have the 15 sick, 12 holiday, 4 personal days, and then the 2 that, are gifts. So when you add that all up, 95 and a half days on the high end, 85 and a half days on the low end. That's over 4 months off. When do you come to work? When does work actually get done around here, right? Taxpayers are paying for all of this. I am for fair pay. We just had employees come in here and we gave some increases. We have given increases to these positions. We should do that. But when people start saying, I need all this extra time off, please, then they say, well, compare us to the other unions. This is, by the way, for people that's sitting at home watching all of this, because this is your tax money. Please put it in an envelope needed soon, every quarter. The comparison chart. Well, by the way, the comparison chart was done before they added an extra week to everybody, by the way. So now what are you going to say, counselors, when you're now voting tonight to give more than what the PSA union gets? We wanted comparison. We wanted comparable. We wanted fairness. Now we want more. So now PSA is going to say, how did they get it? So when they get it, we want it. And by the way, the law department is negotiating these contracts, and it really bothers me because it almost feels like labor's on both sides of the table. Because the argument they make is, well, they're getting it, so we want it. It's an interesting argument. Well, you're the one that gave it to them. So then they give it away to say, I want it for myself. Interesting. So now PSA is going to get less than what the ordinance gives. NAGE, we heard them tonight. Those are hardworking people. They get less than what you're about to give these folks. These are the department heads and such. And key staff. A lot of important positions in here, mind you. I'm not minimizing any of that. More than the firefighters union. So you think they want more? Sure. DPW laborers. They get PTO time now. They don't even get personal leave. All their time, when you see this chart, it's combined with sick leave and vacation and with personal time. So they're going to be more than the DPW laborers and supervisors. When I think about why the city is in the financial condition we're in, you don't have to go very far to see where we're at. And by the way, you know, for all in the room, I'll only just say this. We're not supposed to be voting on raises for our relatives. I'm just going to put that out there as politely as I can. And that's what it is. You put increases for people that are on this list, they're related to you. You're not supposed to vote on that. Just going to make that as we consider the voting shortly. Okay, moving on.
Well, Mr. President, do you want to rule on that now? What,
I didn't hear any question.
I didn't make a question. I made a statement.
It's just a point of order.
All right, order. Councilor Bartley is now speaking.
Just a
Oh,
point,
you have a point of order?
Just a point of order, yeah.
It interrupts me. Yep, that's fine.
Relative, can a counselor vote on a pay raise for a relative, family member?
Yeah, I don't know of any issue that you're raising, so we'll go back.
Well, conflict of interest.
It's not our ruling. That is up to whoever you're referring to. If they have a conflict of interest, they will go and see if they have a conflict and address it themselves. And if they get a ruling that they can vote, then they will vote.
So, well, may I ask, so in your opinion, should they get the ruling before they vote?
I'm sure they already did. It's not my job to ask them to. So
If you're sure they already did, can we just ask a simple question?
I'm not sure if they did or not.
You just said you're sure they already did. Those are the words you just said.
We're not
Mr.
debating.
President,
We're not
you want to play the tape back?
You're out. He's out of order.
You just said that.
You're out of order, Councilor Bartley. Off to. There was a point of order for him asking a question. It's out of order. So back to Councilor Jordan.
And not only, I'll only say, closing on that topic, we have 268A, yes, that's for sure. But in addition, I would also point people to the council has an ethics ordinance, 2-69. People might want to take a look at sections C1 and F2 on that, which goes beyond 268A, specific rules relative to people's economic interests. Point that out. Moving on, back to the merits. I went through most of the financial analysis, but the other thing I also want to point out is the fact that's been a real bothersome to me is the fact that it's all just no leadership in terms of saying the city is in dire financial shape. It's all about what's in it for me. And that's really the disappointing part, because some people should know better. Some of these department heads should know better. And I don't know why this is happening like this, because when you're given these type of generous benefits and you get pay raises and everything else, it really is disturbing to me when this city is faced with a balance sheet that says, right here, bottom of page 7, this is for 2021. By the way, this got worse since. Negative $237,225,218. That's your balance sheet of the city you represent on this council. Negative $237 million. Since that time, we've had some troubles in the stock market, you might have heard. Did you know the retirement fund, which when they calculate the 237, they talk about the net pension liability. Did you know the retirement board lost $50 million last year? So this number is now $50 million bigger. Just share that with you for your edification. And by the way, hopefully March 1st, we'll have Flynn Financial in and we can talk about what's happened to the stabilization fund. That's down a few million too, right? Because stock market's not going so good, and these are the types of investments they have us in. So that number's bigger. Nothing to see here. Now, mind you, you might have also seen December 13th, 2022. For those at home, you can read this. Moody's Investor Service on the city of Holyoke. These are the bond reporting agency. Bingo, you got it right. Downgraded. They talk about the city's challenging finances, talks about how you're at 80% depreciation. You know what that means? You're almost down to salvage value. And you have massive capital needs. But hey, I need a couple more weeks of vacation, work-life balance. This is getting ridiculous. And this stuff just sails through here. And again, as I said at the last meeting, God love you all. I'm the skunk at the lawn party. I'm kind of starting to enjoy that role here. And I'm going to keep being that because that's the kind of guy I am. So anyways, we have a duty here to rein it in. We're creating more liabilities for the city. We need to focus very tightly on the finances of the city. We need to continue to give people cost of living adjustments. They have bills to pay. But when it comes to opportunities like jacking up vacation leave and jacking up personal days, come on. We can't do that to the city. I mean, that is something like, do we have fiscal restraint on anything? It doesn't appear that way. And I'm telling you, this is how cities fall apart financially. We're already a mess financially by every indication. And the only reason we've been, walking around here like we're big shots with money is because we've been trumped up with about $40 million worth of government handouts to a nation, God love our beautiful USA, $31.5 trillion in debt. But they're just printing it out down there and they gave us 40 million of it. God bless them, right? So we got that. But that's what's keeping it going for a couple more years. There'll be a day of reckoning for all of this. And this is what I'm saying is this, it's another $65,000 in the grand scheme of things. Is that a big deal? No, but it's symbolic of exactly what I've been talking about in this little corner piece of real estate in this room, because it's exactly why taxpayers of Holyoke, your taxes are what they are. It's why the tax levy went from $28 million to $60 million that it is today over the last 20 years, okay?
Counselor has the floor, please.
Thank you.
No. Counselor Jordan has the floor, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, you have 1 year, but you have the chance to fix it tonight. This is going to come down to maybe one vote.
Stop. Let's not go back and forth.
I think it wasn't it?
Hey,
Yeah.
order, please. Counselor Jordan is speaking.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would tell people to go back in the minutes and the tapes over the many, many years. I've been largely in the minority of voting here. Praise to the people of Holyoke that they enjoy keeping me here to point these things out. And no, did we get in this position overnight? I wish a lot of decisions had been made in the past. You mentioned the Quinn Bill one earlier tonight. That was a $500,000 kick in the pants from the state legislature. That didn't help things. And that's every year. But nevertheless, that doesn't absolve us from today's decisions. What happened bad in the past doesn't mean two rights make a wrong. And I wish the city had made a lot of better decisions in the past on a number of things, but that's okay. And I'm just going to keep pointing this out until maybe, and we've had some victories over the years to stop them things, like we had the ballot question that was defeated. And oh, by the way, that's going to look extremely fortuitous from 2019 now, because it looks like they're going to put a much better deal together for us on the middle school project. But nevertheless, I come back to this issue about the taxes. I've told about this situation, and when you say $65,000 in the grand scheme of things, is that considered a lot of money? No, but it's symbolic of yet another problem that we need. When are we ever going to say no? When are we ever going to draw the line? And this is why the taxes are so high in this community. We have a crumbling tax base that a lot of people are trying, and some of us have proposed a number of suggestions about revisiting the pilots and a number of things out there. You all graciously supported a resolution to go to our legislature to ask for another $4 million because the property tax system is not fair. I totally support that and have advocated for that. But the fact of the matter is, one, and I won't mention, I'm going to keep it gender neutral because I don't want to give away this person's name, but this legislator said to me, "What are you doing to help yourself?" It's a fair question. I asked this person for the $4 million in a meeting, and this person said to me, "What are you doing for self-help? You know, you got to do your part down there, guys." And this is one of those things. This is saying, you know what? No. Maybe at another time, if things get rosier, if the city's finances improve, maybe we can do this, but we have to draw a line. And I proposed a lot of cuts in this past budget. Quite a number of them did not pass. A number did, but a number of them did not pass. We could have had taxes lower. That issue came up at the last meeting. I voted for the best rate I possibly could under the circumstances, but we could have had a much better situation on the tax levy even this year had we shown more fiscal restraint. This is not showing fiscal restraint. We're in no position to be giving, it feels great. Oh yeah, I could sit here like a yes man too, right? Go ahead, it's great. Everybody, oh, thanks, Kev. Because for the people that are affected, that are going to be the beneficiaries of all this, they think you're a hero, right? But I can't do that because I have a duty, and you have the same duty. And that's why I'm so frustrated, because of the fact, how can you not see the same facts I'm seeing? Please educate me, because maybe I'm crazy, I'm the crazy one, and I'm seeing something you're not. I don't know. But please, by all means, point it out. And the other issue I want to point out, if we're going to change these rules, why don't we change another rule? Where's the accountability side? There's no performance appraisals at all. Go to a job in the private sector and tell me that you can have a job and you never get evaluated. You know what that tells you? There's zero accountability. Somebody mentioned tonight, and it's in frustration relative to the police audit. They talk about, 3 things out of 97 and all this to be investigated and blah, blah, blah. There's no accountability. We don't even have a performance appraisal system in the city. No one gets an eval to actually deserve a merit increase. This is how rubber stamp it is down here. Okay? That's what's going on. Everybody's great. Nobody ever gets fired. Have as much time as you need. 4 months off? No problem with pay. So that's where we're at today. That's why I'm vociferously opposed. Yes, it's about the $65,000, but it's really worth about much more than that. And that is the fact that this council needs to say no once in a while, and we never do. And you're running the place into the ground. And these are going to be a day of reckoning on this. Thank you.
Councilor Givner was next.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask where the figures come from for the offset numbers that you're saying, like 1 day equals $7,000 and 1 week equals $60,000. The source would be appreciated. And also, I was interested in the definition of normal for the private sector. I also have a hard time accepting responsibility for the entire history of Holyoke, digging itself into the hole in the last 50 years. I strongly feel that happy employees create a much nicer city. And a lot of the city employees work in Holyoke, so they're our constituents too. So as a public servant, I think it's important to make everyone we can happy. I think we have to find the money because we find it for these other departments that we don't want our city employees to have more vacation time than. I think it's really important that we figure out ways to make it work. We need schools. We need happy employees in City Hall. We need a police department that functions. We need a fire department that functions. We need an ambulance service. We need a mayor. We need a city council. We need all these things. But I don't think, it's not even anything to think about. We have to provide for the people who provide for us. And if they're not happy and they can't get what they need from this employer, they will go elsewhere. And there's a lot of people I think we don't want to lose. So, yeah. I don't know what normal is, but I've had 6 weeks vacation before. I've had 2 months vacation before. I don't understand how one thing has to do with the other. Does my being on vacation not mean that I come back happy and ready to work? I think it's really good for people. People have families. They want to go to a baseball game for their kids, like whatever they need to do. I don't really care what they do with their free time. And for those who are in unions who fight for them and get them 1,000,000 days vacation and, you know, negotiate contracts that we agree to, well, good for them. I mean, maybe we need to negotiate harder and not, you know, punish the people who are just trying to get a couple extra days vacation. So, but yeah, I would be interested in what the normal definition is, because the PTO thing I don't think is great, but I've worked places like that too. I just think it's a question of how you negotiate coming in somewhere. And we as a city are trying to make it so that people can negotiate their way in and we can keep them. Thanks.
Councilor Rivera.
I think the councilor brought up a lot of points that are actually valid, right? I hear him on them, but it's just that it's not consistent across the board. Again, some councilors here understand the system a lot better than us. They've been here a lot longer. They're a lot more seasoned. So they wield their power with that knowledge as they see it fit. Being on the council for so long allows you the opportunities to learn how to do this, right? And how to play the game to the extent that you can win things over and say certain key terms or buzz phrases to try to get people riled up or the community riled up in a way that is actually not effective or efficient for our community overall. But I guess for me, speaking to the point with regards to like us as a council, a lot of us are new councilors. So for reference in the past, a lot of the past stuff has nothing to do with any of the new councilors. All we can be held accountable for is what we have done within the last 12 to 13 months. This decision, you may not agree with it, and I respect that 110%. But at the end of the day, because of this decision isn't the reason why we're in debt $200 and something thousand. That has nothing to do with that. It could add to the debt, that is true. But the votes we just took before this will add to the debt significantly, a lot more than this $65,000 that you're talking about. I mean, I don't have the paper in front of me. I've been looking for it in my emails. I couldn't find it. The top 100 city salaries. Nobody's complaining and kicking and screaming about one department, bro, in general. And I don't even want to put it out there because, again, I voted for the race. I'm with it. 100, they deserve to have it. But at the end of the day, $65,000 and people are making $250, $220, $210. And a lot of them don't even probably live in Holyoke. But we're not up in arms kicking and screaming for this. There was no financial analysis for the stuff that we were just voted on before that.
I did.
Actually. Yeah? You didn't present it? You didn't talk for an hour? I'm just saying, you can't pick and choose, bro. And this is why we're where we're at now. Because this is what it's been for years, for decades. So at the end of the day, I've only been here 12 months. You want to blame me for everything, for this one decision, for the last 12 months I've been here? I'll take some accountability because I should, and I will. And for the next however long I'm here, if people come at me and they want to say that there are some reasons why the city is what it is, I can take that accountability. I'm not going to shy away from it and say that it wasn't me or I didn't vote in that favor or I had to. No, I'm going to take the accountability for my decisions at the end of the day, whether they're right in someone's opinion or whether they're wrong. Sometimes I could be wrong. That's not the thing for me. The issue here is making it equitable for everyone across the board. And it's not equitable when we have certain people making more money than other communities that actually have lower crime rates. They have lower crime rates in these other communities. And they're making less money than us. silence. We should all be able to work in a way where it's effective and efficient for the city, not for an individual, not for an individual department, and not for anyone across the board. There are some points that the counselor brought up that are very valid, 110%. But if this is the way that the city is now moving in this direction because it's hard for certain departments to get the things that they need, then might have to be the way to do it. I'm sorry. Things need to evolve. And it may not always look like you want it to. I don't always get what I want. Am I going to kick and scream and pout every time? I try to, but they don't let me. But all right.
Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple quick things. I believe in looking at things in a positive way, and I think what we have in front of us is a positive proposal for a very small amount of individual city employees. I mean, if you examine these individuals, most of them work in the office setting of what's known as city government. The hours of the city are 8:30 to 4:30, 8 hours. They're required to be here for those 8 hours. They have lunch, they have time off, and that's where we get into the 35 as opposed to 37.5. It's a difference of the amount of time an individual takes for lunch. These individuals do not and cannot enter into a collective bargaining unit and have no one speaking up for them. Oftentimes, we've seen them go without any type of increase for years. I mentioned one position at the last meeting when we started talking about this, who went 10, 15 years without any type of salary increase, and also was at a max where nothing could be done until we adjusted the salary increase tables themselves. The difference to me is you can look at numbers that are important to understand and impacts that are important to understand, but these are benefits. And these are benefits that, allow an individual time off. Many of these individuals come into these chambers when we call them and spend hours in a committee meeting. Many of these individuals are on Zoom right now with us, long beyond the hours of 8:30 to 4:30. Many of these individuals don't get the benefits that their contemporaries do in other cities, their contemporaries do in collective bargaining units within the city itself. The law department is responsible, as they should be as attorneys, to be in the midst of any collective bargaining. The final negotiation is the mayor. The mayor often sends a chief of staff or a high-ranking official to work with the law department or the law department by themselves, but the law department cannot finalize a contract without the mayor, and the mayor is in the midst of every negotiation that comes before us. The city, whether it be the retirement board or stabilization funds that took a hit, everyone took a hit. Look at if anybody has a 401k, you took a hit. If anybody plays the game in the stocks and bonds, it took a hit. I mean, nobody lost it on behalf of the city, but this entire country took a big hit, and we know that stuff will rebound, and there's not much you can do, but hopefully the market rebounds quicker. The difference of this is, and if you take out some of the library schedule, which has always been tough to follow, is I think we're talking about less than 20 employees who are the heart of a lot of what the city does and what a lot of the city relies upon with services. The numbers of the worst case scenario, because what's in front of us goes in increments of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years and above. Yes, the worst case scenarios add up, as happens in anybody who hangs around for 20 years in one job. But look around. We don't have that many individuals hanging around for 20 years because the grass is greener somewhere else. We're training them and they're leaving. This is a gesture. There's no direct appropriation or financial impact by doing this, but maybe we can keep some of these individuals for 10 years, 20 years, and their experience will pay back in dividends to where we will have a healthier and more solvent city itself because we have healthier people making decisions. Government is not about elected officials. We play a very key role, but government is these people who are the ones that are responsible for providing the services that this city and taxpayers want. So let's be positive. The glass is half full, not half empty. But let's not be afraid to look at the problems. But let's not go to a point where this is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's not what's happening. We're helping some individuals who have not been given the kind-hearted and good approach and faith by their employer over the years.
Councilor Murphy Ramboletti.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this brief because we literally had this conversation 2 weeks ago, and I don't think I need to repeat myself, but just to follow up on what Councilor McGivern said, especially as a former city employee who could not be retained here because the pay wasn't good and the benefits weren't good. I watched a lot of turnover, and I know that fear-mongering can be super effective for those who are watching and don't really fully grasp the full situation. So just to reiterate, the only folks that would get 30 days of vacation if these orders get adopted is for people who have been here, like Councilor McGivern said, for 25 years, and that's relatively few employees. And theoretically, employees who have actually stuck around here that long, I think they understand the difference between when it's appropriate to take time off and when it's convenient and when it's irresponsible. So, just for any city employees that are watching at home and this impacts you, I hope you know that you are appreciated by some of us. So that's all. Thanks.
Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I want to be clear that we're talking about Schedule A employees here, and since we're functioning as a committee of the whole, I would like you to read into the record the positions that will be affected by this order that is before us in legal form, if you would.
So the first one is Section 2-40, Vacation Leave General, Division 1, entitled General, Article 2, Officers and Employees General, and Chapter 2, entitled Administration, and Code of Ordinances amended from 1997. And
Mr. President, if I can clarify?
Yep.
I'm asking you to read in the name of the titles of the positions that will be affected by the vote relative to the vacation benefit that are listed on Schedule A.
I don't have the Schedule A attached to this.
Well, maybe our administrative assistant can get it.
Well, he works on that. Is there another question from you until we get
Well,
there?
I have some other comments that I'd like to make.
Okay.
And for people who are starting to use loaded words like fear-mongering, I think what we're having here is a debate on the merits of the issue. And we have a difference of opinion. And some of us are pointing out process. So here's what I'm going to point out. First, we have no emergency before us that led to a necessity to pull orders out of a committee that had been there for barely 45 days, when every chair sitting in this room has orders in their jacket that are a year or more older. So the idea that this is an emergency is false, and the public should know that. And when we want to talk about representing our constituents, we are elected by the voters and taxpayers of the city. That's who we're here to represent. And yes, we should be fair to the workforce. Yes, we should provide reasonable work conditions. And we have. This last thing that is a moving target, as Councilor Jourdain properly pointed out, has added costs between the time it went to committee and got pulled out of committee, is a situation where now this group of people will have more vacation benefits than all the other groups of people. And so common sense would dictate that then those folks will want those same benefits, because why should they not? Because they will look over and say, Now they have this. And you just get into an always escalating situation. So I want to make those 2 points. On the conflict of interest matter, I've been on this council a few years now, and in every budget hearing, Councilor Leahy, when he served, abstained from votes relative to the police department because he had a relative on it that had a financial interest. So I say to my colleagues, you start throwing out ethics, then you might as well just throw out all of the rules. Because if you're going to start picking and choosing which conflicts matter and which ones don't, then we're on a really slippery slope into anarchy. And we all voted on these rules, and we all know, we just all took the conflict of interest study, correct? I think. Didn't we have to have it done by this month? Or maybe some folks haven't taken it yet. Vacation time is a monetary value. That is known and generally understood in the workplace. So do we have Schedule A available to be read into the record?
So Schedule A, Grade 1, Library Assistants, Reference Library Assistants. Grade 2, Custodian/Library. Grade 3, Archivists. Grade 4, Computer Coordinator. Grade 5, Administration Assistant to the City Council. Administrative Assistant to the Fire Chief. Administration Assistant to the Police Chief. Cataloger, there we go. Head Administrative Clerk. Grade 6, Children's Librarian, Financial Manager, Reference Librarian, Collections Development Librarian Paralegal. Grade 7, Assistant City Clerk, Administrative Assistant to the Mayor, Mayor's Aide, Personal Assistant, Assistant Director under Grade 8 to the Librarian, Assistant Treasurer, Mayoral Aide Chief of Staff. Grade 9, Assessor. Grade 10, Associate City Solicitor. Grade 11, Chief Assessor, Director Library, Personal Administration, Tax Collector, Assistant City Solicitor. Grade 12. Grade 13, City Auditor, City Solicitor, Director of Planning and Development. Grade 14, Superintendent of Public Works. Grade 15, nothing, 16, 17, blank, blank, blank.
Thank you.
Councilor Puello was next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleagues for, asking the right and diligent questions. I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, but I do think one point said tonight is very important, and that's the ethics. I think I just heard an administrative assistant, so I wanted to see if maybe through the president, if I could ask the Ward 6 counselor if he ended up getting a state ethics.
It's out of order.
Through the president?
It's out of order.
Okay.
For me? No, it's out of order. Stop. Hey,
Because I got you.
Stop. The question is out of order.
No, it's like I'm sick and
No,
tired
stop,
of this
stop,
guy.
Stop,
being
please.
here.
We are
You
on.
could be saving money right now, but these three.
Are on.
Save some money. Let's
We
talk
are
about
on
money.
item
Let's
eight.
talk about money. Hold on. no.
Item 8.
You want to fire me up?
Hey.
I got you, and you.
Order.
All three of you. I got you, and you.
Counselor
You don't know.
Anderson Burgos. Item 8. Item 8, please. Hey, enough, everyone. Enough. Let's go. Item 8. Anyone further for questions on item 8?
I wanted to answer, there was a couple questions raised.
Okay, for answer. Counselor Jordan has the floor. Thank you. Counselor Jordan.
He just invited me to fight. So what am I supposed to do?
Enough.
He just invited me to fight.
Enough.
He just invited me to fight.
Counselor Jordan. Counselor.
Yeah, you.
That's a lie, like you always lie. That's a big lie.
Counselors. Counselor Jordan has. Counselor Jordan.
Okay.
We're done. Counselor Jordan.
Again, bringing this back to the number. So one counselor asked some good questions, and I think another made some additional points. One is, what's normal? Well, I'll start with the question of who do we represent? The first thing I would say is, are you aware that the average income per household of Holyoke is $31,628. Okay, so that's the household income. I would suggest to you a number of the individuals under this. We've done better than that, much better than that. And I would suggest to you that if I could survey every person in Holyoke, which I don't have the capacity to do, I would venture to say that they don't get 8 weeks of time off per year. I'm going to take a wild guess. Maybe you think that is the average, but I don't think that's the average. And I will say that the average job is 40 hours a week. That's what I call the normal job. The standard job in this beautiful country of ours, I'd say, is around 40 hours a week. I think that's a fair. So if you're working 35, you're not working 40. That's in and of itself is a plus. Because the argument essentially comes down to, on the other side, is if you don't give them this, they're going elsewhere, right? Like, you're not competitive. I'm trying to suggest to you, these rules that have been in effect for an extremely long time, I think somebody said at least since 1972 that they could go back on, that we have not had a problem historically over the years filling these positions. And I don't think we will still have hardship filling these positions, quite frankly. Number two is I do support pay raises and have, as long as they're reasonable. But when we start getting into these benefit giveaways, that's a whole nother cup of tea. And when we get to work-life balance issues and what's fair, I think that's what we're talking about. As far as the other point about change and where are we going to do to turn this community around, and some people were saying, well, this absolves me apparently of this vote, right? Because if you're brand new, I don't have to worry. It's like you inherit the city you signed up for, right? And the fact of the matter is this council is going to have to make a lot of difficult decisions, okay, in order for us to turn it around. Maybe the decision is, by some, you don't care. Not because you're not a caring person, but it's either just too big for you to deal with and you're like, somebody else will figure it out down the road, or it's too complex and you don't understand it, or it's fear-mongering, or whatever people want to call it. These are the numbers. This is the deck of cards you're dealt as an elected official. You need to deal with that deck of cards, right? And you are on deck to make these decisions now for the future of the community. And if you're just going to say, well, I'm going to make it a little bit worse, that's not okay, right? We need to get to a point where, if you listen back over the years, we've had a number of debates on this topic over the years. Often I have been in the minority of those debates, no question. There's definitely different philosophies here. But if you look at where things were 20 years ago when our tax levy was $28 million and where we're at today, you would think that after we're charging everybody an extra $32 million a year in taxes per year, that it would be in such better financial condition. But we're in the worst financial condition we've ever been in right now. So the point is it getting better or is it getting worse? And are you part of the problem or part of the solution is really what I'm trying to point out. And this is a bad vote to take in favor of this, because it's increasing benefits and costs to the city when we don't need to. I think what we need to do is make serious systemic change. I've talked about those here. I've talked to those in other forums, and we'll continue to do that. But we need to not make the problem worse, is the point I'm trying to make. And this is doing that. And so, but at the meantime, we also recognize people have to support their families, and we want to make sure people are getting a decent wage. So I have supported cost of living adjustments. Can we really afford those either? No, because when you add up the total cost of all this new cost to the city, folks, when you have like a retirement, we're on a retirement schedule that's going to be going up $375,000 a year, every year for the next 13 years, Where's that money coming from? We're only bringing in an extra $1 million a year. I mean, this ain't getting easy. This is getting much, much harder. And my point is, this is just adding to the burden, right? So some of these things, like the retirement account, there really isn't much we can do. I mean, yes, I agree with the point that, you know, the stock market will eventually turn around and that will get better. My point is, it can also get worse. That could go either way. I hope it does definitely get better. I believe in the American economy. I'm certain it will. But the point is, a lot of our fixed cost, like we need to give raises, but we don't need to do this, right? So why are we doing it? It doesn't make sense. And it's adding to the burden. So on that point, I think I've made my points. There's just a fundamental disagreement. My point is, we've got to start making some really difficult decisions. Or maybe it's just, hey, you know, we just watch it run out and we'll all leave and somebody else will take over at some point for us. Or maybe some miracle will come in and, you know, some magic pill or a bag of beans will come in for us. Let's hope it all works out. But this is a bad vote. I have a duty to report it as that. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just really have two things. One, putting in my bi-weekly, monthly point about unlimited time off. All of this debate would be done if we just went to that extreme. I think it's probably the best solution, to be honest. So if personnel, the mayor, solicitor's office, y'all are hearing this, that should be what y'all should be working on. The other thing, though, I do want to push back on the 32.5 hours. So I've worked for 12, 14 years now, and every single job that I have had that's been salary, you've included a paid lunch break, because in actuality, a lot of times, one, you don't take the hour because you're working straight through because your work is just so busy. But also you use that lunch break to break bread with others that you're supposed to be doing work with. So it really changes what a lunch and what a lunch break means. So I just wanted to push back on that it's like 32 days off. I mean, for anyone that runs a business and is posting new jobs, yeah, go ahead, put 32 days off if you get an hour lunch break. I think that's something that's so out of context, and so it just does not make sense to use that as a figure. Now everything else, like the 6 weeks, 4 weeks, sure, but like the 32.5, the paid hour lunch break, like that's just standard right now across many industries. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera.
So, again, I want to make the point of it's not about like making things worse or intentionally trying to make things worse. It's trying to make a decision that's best for the city and for the city employees that work for us. If we were to do a survey of how many of our city employees live within the city, you're going to actually notice that a lot of them are your constituents as well, not just our public servants or our public administrators. So, I mean, I agree, and I hear a lot of the points being made by Councilor Jordan, and they're real concerns, but a lot of them are just in case concerns. It's not that it's fact. It's not set in stone. As Councilor McGivern mentioned, it's rare nowadays for us to have someone that's here 15, 20, 25 years. So it's possible that it could happen, but it's also possible that it can't happen and that it won't happen. We just gave raises to salaries that are already above 200 plus, and nobody batted an eye. I don't understand like how it's an issue for this situation to this extent. You know what I mean? Like, this is real life beef right now because of this. And right now we just voted for raises for people making more than 200. 150. Like, that's almost $1 million off of 5 people. Off of 5 people. But right now we're talking about 65K. Right? My whole life in working, I think the most hours I've ever worked is 37.5. The average is usually 37.5 in the public sector and in the nonprofit sector. You can't compare private to nonprofit. That's why you get an MBA versus an MPA. Two different things. They're not the same. You can do that to convolute, conflex, and confuse. That's cool. People are skilled in those tactics. People are skilled in those arts, especially if you're a very good debater. I don't take it away from anybody that has those credits. But at the end of the day, the reality of what it is, these are our city employees that we should show some value to and some appreciation to, right? We gave salaries raises, yes, to catch up. To catch up. To catch up. I think Tyrone over here, he just spoke earlier as a city employee himself. He's here literally listening to all this. Like, I don't understand. And he's been, I've seen him my whole life in Holyoke, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are certain places where, like, the energy, yes, I love the energy, I love the fire, I'm with you, I like that. You did the analysis and you did all the research and you know what I'm saying? I'm awesome, totally appreciate that. But it's just, we need that energy for a lot of other things too as well, not just for the things that tickle people's fancies and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, if you like this, then you're gonna, oh yeah, let me go deep into it. Isn't that biased on itself? Like, I wish I need a couple more years. Give me a couple more years and I'll be at that level. I'll be at that level. Right now I'm in my master's program. I'm learning about strategic planning. I'm learning about what it is to be a public administrator and what they're doing across the state, right? I'm actually learning it now. I don't know how many other people are doing that, but at the end of the day, it's not the same. It's not the same everywhere you go. And to be honest, we're behind everyone. And to keep citing the income as a weapon, to me, it kind of bothers me because my mom had that salary growing up, and she did not own a house. We lived in the projects. I'm not making that now. You're not making that now. None of us are probably. Some of us are probably making way more than $31,000 a year. To weaponize it on certain conversations or on certain issues, I don't understand how that's cool, bro. Like, for me, it's kind of messed up. You're using it in a way where it's not beneficial to the people itself. We keep saying that we're a poor community. If you want to keep speaking it into existence, that's what it's going to be. Keep on telling the people they're poor. Go ahead. That's cool. Keep on asking the state for more money to take care of us, because that's the best thing to do, even though we talk about not wanting money from the government and all this other stuff. I don't know, bro. Like, how are we going to get to the point to move forward? It's $65K. Not to say that it's not a lot of money, because I don't have $65K laying around to just give someone. And then one more question. How many times can somebody speak?
3 times.
All right.
We have
Suspend the rules.
We
Yeah.
have to suspend the rules for a third time.
I've been asked that in like a variety of messages. And then how long can somebody speak? Like, people are really upset. They're literally texting me like, yo, why can people speak?
No rule.
this long?
I'll answer that. There's no rule on time. There is a rule on number.
Yeah.
So, Counselor Bartley for the first
Yeah,
time.
I'll be very brief. Thanks, Mr. President. I just want to make a point why I voted no last time, why I'm going to vote this time, and it's nothing to do with lack of appreciation for city employees, because I think I voted multiple times over my career for raises and for union contracts. It's the process. I don't like this process. I don't like the fact that we pulled it out of committee arbitrarily. And like I said, I'm only my 12th year here, but I don't remember too many times where an ordinance was pulled prematurely out of committee before we even had a committee meeting. In fact, this is the first time in my career that that's happened. We've pulled things out of committee before, but rarely, Mr. President. So to have a 2-hour committee meeting at the last full subcommittee meeting, at the last full city council meeting, to have another hour and a half, which should be a subcommittee meeting, at this committee, full city council meeting, I don't think that's good public process. So that's one thing. Councils can say what they want, and we all say things in the heat of the battle. Gosh knows I've done it myself. But I want it on the record that I respect all city employees, And so I only speak for myself, but I'm guessing I speak for everybody. And normally I would say, Mr. President, that I support the bulk of this. I would much rather have had it vetted with a back and forth with department heads and advocates, so that in chambers at a subcommittee meeting, as we always do, except for now. I've only been here, this is my 12th year. This is the only time this has happened. Notice I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about 65,000 compared to, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the process. One last thing, on a positive note, several of us already have advanced degrees. Kevin has 2, Mr. McGee has 2, I have 2. So I'm grateful. I mean, I'm not here to talk about my resume. I'll put it on my campaign literature, big deal. I'm proud of people for furthering their education, but to think that some of us here have not gone through that road with other family situations in our career. I'm going through a family situation now, as some of us here know. So I got a lot of burdens on my life too. And I stipulated before, Mr. President, I'd rather be somewhere else as well. I think most of us would, but we're here, we're doing the best we can. So thank you for that. Thanks, Mr. President.
Counselor Jordan would like to speak for a third time. We'd have to suspend
So
the
moved.
rules.
Second.
I'll make it quick.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Counselor Jordan.
Thank you. Just a couple points. One is, I forgot to answer Counselor Givner's question, which is, Kevin, how did you calculate the 65,000 number? And that's cocaine, is because I was provided the daily rate of pay of all the employees. So therefore, I could multiply the added days times their daily rate. So that gets me to the 65,000 number. Now, another point was made that this is only going to help certain small category of the individuals. And the first thing I'll say also is these are non-union employees, right? Part of my argument is that now that the union employees are not going to get as good of benefits as this set of non-union employees, that they're going to want the same thing, right? So is the number get bigger than 65? Potentially. We don't know that. That'll be subject to later debate. But I did want to point out everybody has the potential, if not the outright, well, everyone's going to get at least something because they went up on every annual grade by at least 5 days. So every person guaranteed. So from the newest employee, for example, if you're 5 days or less, 5 years or less, and you were getting 10 days, you're going to get 15 now because that wasn't in the original proposal. Under the new proposal, everybody will get at least 1 week. And then, of course, everybody's going to get the personal day added. So the minimum for every person in here, all 34 employees affected, is 6 days of added leave time, all right? Now, it may go up from there because at that point, the mayor has the authority in the ordinance to take the new employees to go from 2 to 4 weeks. And then if you're more than that, he can add on an extra week after that. So that is how I came up with those numbers. I don't really think there was a question in what one of the other counselors was saying. I'll only say, oh yes, actually there was kind of. You know, how can, and let me answer that, which is, how can I use the statistics of the community to talk about the cost? Because we don't produce any money, right? This isn't a business that sells products. We're here completely 100% by the generosity and grace of the people of Holyoke, the taxpayers, right? So what I have been raising as an issue is the fact that the tax burden of this community is enormous compared as a percentage of the actual residents' income. Did you know that the tax levy as a percentage of household income is almost double the statewide average in Holyoke as it is to the average community? By the way, they have the average household income in the state is $77,378. We're $31,628. Okay, so we're paying 13.4%. The statewide is only 8.4%. So that's the reason that there's a nexus. And, you know, like you, I'm from a single mom, and like you, I grew up in the projects, and I can talk about all those, you know, my background and how I rags to riches and got myself my education and pulled myself up by the bootstraps. And I hope that happens for everybody. I want that for everybody. But I will also just say that the financial realities of this community are such that the people pulling the wagon, the taxpayers, have to keep pulling harder and harder with less and less income, and the tax bills that keep having to go up more and more and more to pay all this. It's a real burden on the residents. I'm just simply pointing that out because income matters. And if they don't have the capacity to pay more, we should at least take that into consideration. So I do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I would just like to address a couple points and remind my colleagues that we're acting as a committee of the whole because the council made the decision to pull the matter out of committee. And one of the councilors made the comment that we just approved money for big raises in a contract without doing any salary comparisons. Well, if you watched the Finance Committee meeting, and if you looked at the documents that were sent to us prior to the meeting tonight, you would know that that review was done, that information was made available, and it's on our website. So that was vetted. The reason that we're talking about this level of detail here tonight and last week is because we're acting as the committee of the whole. And this is what happens in discussion in committees. So we are looking at the comparisons. We are looking at the changes. And, you know, facts are stubborn things, but we're doing our work to look at those facts, to look at the impacts of the changes that happened outside of the committee and that we are now dealing with as a committee of the whole. So, and I would reiterate, because it seems like it's pretty new information to everybody, and I hope everybody has read it, that then the new benefits will exceed the benefits of the rest of the employees. And I don't think the way to fix something is to create another inequity. And I would like to offer a motion that this legal form gets sent to Ordinance Committee, which is where it belongs, which is where we should be doing the work. And from my read of the legal forms, there's further amendments needed to it. And if somebody would give a second, I'd like to see the sentiment of the committee to send this legal form to committee where it should be dealt with, because people are taking issue with functioning as a committee of the whole. So if somebody would second my motion, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
So motion was to send these back to committee. I do have Counselor Jenny Rivera for the first time. Counselor, I do see your hand up, but for the very first time, Counselor Rivera, please.
I'm going to make it quick. I don't understand. Our last meeting, we were at 2 hours. We're at an hour and a half, and we can't get off of this subject. It's really, everybody wants to hear the constituents, this we got voted in. Is anybody watching or even watching how they're looking at us, how we look? The disrespect towards our president, the disrespect towards ourselves in here. It's a joke. We're all adults. I work 9 to 5 every day. I get an hour for lunch. So basically my work week is 35 hours. And I've been doing it, I'm 56. Been doing it for a long, long time. It's normal. Everything has gone up. Let's get on the subject of eggs. Everything has gone up. Our city employees we need to do better for them. And if they take 30 days, they're not going to take, anybody in the right mind will not take 30 days at a time. There's a policy in place. So if you're here 25 years and you're entitled to 30 days, so be. But you're not going to take 30 days at a time. Pretty sure there's a policy you could take 1 week, 2 weeks, wait another month, 2, 3, 4 months, then you get another week. I've been that. I worked. Whether it's private, now nonprofit, it's really annoying. I have a full-time job, and we are on the agenda at what time? Because we're still on the same subject. Can we move forward?
You could say on the motion, and then that would end the.
On the motion.
Well, hold on.
He said he.
Just wait. First was Counselor Bacon, which was seconded, to send this to committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
All those opposed?
No.
Noes would have it. Back to, then I heard on the motion, it was seconded. So this would be to end debate and then address passing the first reading. Counselor Anderson Burgos.
Thank you. So, thank you, Councilor Rivera. I just want to put out there, I am extremely tired. I had a long week. And I want to apologize to the constituents of this community. And I want to apologize to Councilor Puello, because it takes a man to apologize. I was out of line. I'm pretty sure a lot of us were out of line. But this is what you get when it's a heated debate and your integrity is challenged. It is horrible. I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again, and it's just horrible. I made a couple of points. So to me, it's an insult when you throw my husband in my face and say ethics, when this is nothing to do with my husband. You have no idea what this man goes through at my house, at our house. The amount of work that he puts for every single one of you. And guess what? It makes him happy. So I let him do it.
So Counselor.
Hold on. I'm going to go somewhere because everyone had their time to talk and I didn't. So here's what I'm looking at. So if we want to talk about saving money, right? If we look at Order 31, there's more money right there going out, right? Let's give out more money. There's one. This last election, the city could have saved $20,000, but 2 counselors were challenged to leave schools that is about 90% Latino, and they were challenged. They would have saved $20,000. You want to talk about saving money? Also, high turnover, extreme high turnover, which will then tell you that people are leaving and business is not getting done. And it exhausts the employees of the city. And it's easy for you to sit there and use a city councilor's husband to make a point, so say, I gotcha. And then make a display so that all your constituents are looking. And I hope that they are. And if they're not, I'm sharing this video. Trust and believe. I am taking receipts. You guys messed with the wrong person. Secondly, I want to ask, because I've been voting on the budget, and I already spoke to the law department and was told it is no different than when you vote on the budget. So now, through our president to Attorney Bissonnette, is this no different than voting on the budget? I want to hear that for the record, please.
Well, it's still under suspension of rules to Mike, because we did ask Mike for information on this. So, Mike?
Good evening again, councilors.
Good evening. Did you hear the question?
Yes, the councilor is correct. It is similar to the vote he took on the budget. In fact, it is even further removed than that. So there would not be conflict on this particular vote.
I'm sorry, Attorney Bissonette, did you say there's no conflict?
There would not be a conflict. That's
Thank you.
correct.
Okay, and then the final statement I'm going to make is it is also insulting to say that the mayor can just give 1 month to this guy because I like him. I like this guy, I'm going to give him 1 month off. That's what you're saying is that our mayor is irresponsible. That's what you're saying, that he is irresponsible, but in the same breath, you're sitting there and saying, oh, but I like him. That contradicts itself right there. How pathetic. And I leave it at that. Okay, next.
So there was a member of the audience that raised their hand. The reason you can't speak, we had public comment in the beginning, and that's at that time, or in the committee meeting. So I just wanted to address when you raise your hand. Just letting you know. I didn't shut you down. I just want to let you know. Okay.
Since we're having questions to the law department?
Yeah, it's still open.
Oh, good.
So that is true. So it was just.
Well, hold on. Why is it when I want to ask a question, he asked a question to the law department? I'm just asking a question. I'm not even speaking. I'm just asking a question to the law department.
Then ask a question to law.
Okay, Mr. Bissonette, you vote on the budget. I get that. That's fine. That's been pretty established. You can vote to give your spouse increased pay in a limited number of individuals like this. This is since we're going to, let's get right to it. I want to understand the conflict of interest rules here, so I'm crystal clear from Mike Bissonette's take on it. And by the way, you're not an authority to rule on this anyways. You are an advisor, but it actually comes from the State Ethics Commission. That's number one. Number two is you can
Actually,
vote.
no.
You can vote to give your.
First instance, it's the city solicitor's office. But go right ahead, Councilor. I'm sorry to interrupt.
All right.
Just want to make sure we're correct here.
Usually the past practice, well, again, maybe there's a new policy in our law department, but again, I've been here for a while and the law department has always instructed us, and you wouldn't be privy to these conversations because I've been here a little longer than you, but that the past is, they would encourage you to go speak to the State Ethics Commission.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is the same policy.
Okay, all right. So you're telling me that you can vote to increase your spouse's, in a limited context like this, a person's pay or their benefits?
If it was an individual line item just directly affecting the spouse and only pertaining to that particular employee, yes, there would be a conflict. However, I believe there are 31 individuals listed in a Schedule A salary schedule. So there seems to be more than enough to make it a generic vote rather than a specific vote that would harbor a conflict of interest. But as you say, Councilor,
we have thousands of employees.
Hold on. Mike is speaking.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Any member of the council, any member of the public is certainly welcome to contact directly the State Ethics Commission. And you can also look up, there are various rulings on this, Councilor Jordan, that you might be welcome to look up as well.
Yeah, all right.
Question asked and answered on the question.
I have another question, and it doesn't have to do with 268A. It has to do with, we have an ethics ordinance, and I just wondered if that has been reviewed. That says.
I'm going to stop it there. That is up to the counselor who may or may not have an ethics issue to deal with that. It's not our job to police it. So that is out of order.
No, I'm asking the law department a question. He's opining.
You're referring to a certain counselor if they have an ethical issue.
No, generic, anybody.
It's not generic. I'm going to say it's out of order.
That you can't.
It's asked and answered. And if the counselor does have an ethical problem or anything, that's for them to address it, not us to police it.
Okay. So I did not get to ask my question relative to the city council ethics ordinance and the applicability of that. Okay. That would have been the question I would have asked relative to economic interest. Okay.
All right, so with that, it was a motion to, I just drew a blank on the motion. What was the motion again, Councilor Tallman?
Move the previous question.
Yeah,
Move the question.
Here we go. It's been a while. So
Move the
with
motion.
that, motion was to pass the first reading. That was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion would be to pass the second reading. Is there a motion for that?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion that the
Passage be
ordained.
ordained.
Okay, I have a point of order.
Okay. Point of order.
Point of order on that is, and maybe the law department wants to opine on this as well, but it's my understanding from Mass General Law, Chapter 43, Section 22, that any ordinance, order, or resolution may be passed through all stages of legislation at one session, provided that no member of the council objects thereto. But if any member of the council objects, the measure shall be postponed for that meeting. This would be the final vote if it were allowed to go on, and I do object under Mass General Law, Chapter 43, Section 22, and I would ask that the vote be postponed.
Second.
It doesn't really need a
I
second,
know,
but thank you anyways.
So motion that be postponed. I don't think that's in order because last time we had a legal opinion, it was a 2/3 vote to take it up. To me, I'm just going to say I think it's out of order. That's my opinion.
How can state law be out of order, Mr. President?
Because it doesn't. Once again, legal can respond to it after. So with that, motion is that the
Can I ask
passage
a law
be
department a
ordained.
question on the applicability of this statute?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Bissonette, are you available?
Yes.
Okay, I'm referring to Chapter 43, Section 22. It says that if I object, that any ordinance, order, or resolution could be passed during all stages of legislation at one session, provided that no member of the council objects. But if any member of the council does object, the measure would be postponed for that meeting. Do you believe if I object that I could use that to have the matter postponed for this meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So legal, you're saying we have to postpone it?
If the council objects and cites Section 22 as the authorization to do so, then the measure shall be postponed.
All right, so
That's how the statute reads, and that is what is required. It cannot be waived by the council because it's a state law, so it couldn't even be waived by a 2/3 vote.
Okay. So this will be tabled.
Point of inquiry. Now I have a question for the law department.
Councilor McGivern.
Attorney Bissonette,
Sir.
if I just heard the reading of that Mass General Law, which is not in coherence with our own orders of the City Council or with the Robert rules that we abide by, but more important, it says if all the votes take place on the same evening. This is the second night the City Council has debated this. Actually, the third, if you want to talk about receiving it, referring it to ordinance, then the second, we received it and we pulled it out of ordinance for the purpose of going forward, and then we debated it, sent it to the law department for a legal form to come back to take the final votes. So I don't see how Mass General Law circumvents the City Council's 3 shots at the apple here, where it says you can't do it all in one night. We're far beyond one night.
Mr. President.
Mike. Mike, did you hear the question?
The question revolves around at what stage does a reading occur? Your rules state that the council president is to read, and that's the language in the rules, is to read every order introduced. That happens before it's referred to committee. That'll happen tonight under your orders file for this particular meeting. However, as a general rule and past practice, you all know that on the night an ordinance is generally enrolled to be ordained, it also goes through 2 readings. Whether or not those are the first and second, or whether the first occurred on the night it was introduced, is a question entirely for the city council to determine. If it were to determine that the reading occurred the first time it was read, and that was the first reading, that is a state of legislation that was at a different session than tonight. Theoretically, then the objection could be overcome in that manner.
Correct, because it's now past the first reading.
We did the first and second reading, and now the third and final stage of ordainment all on the same night. This is what you guys
It's the
chose
first
to
reading
do.
on a different night, and we debated it for 2 meetings already.
Tonight was the first reading.
No.
Tonight is the first.
Mr. President.
All right, so hold on. So, Mike, if we postpone it, is that tabling it for the next meeting?
Yes, I would agree with that.
It does.
Okay.
You will already have passed it twice at some point. But if it was postponed, it would be tabled till the next meeting, and section 22 then couldn't be used again to delay passage. Or, I'm sorry, delay a vote.
Some motion would be that it is tabled to the next meeting. And not really a motion, pursuant to the rule that legal says that is being imposed, even though it is not really the first reading, but.
Point of inquiry.
Yep. Councilor McGivern.
So we're tabling the final reading.
Correct.
Okay. There'll be no debate at the next meeting when we vote.
No, it's the final reading.
No debate. Nothing.
Well, yeah.
That's our rules.
But with that, so this.
So what are we doing?
So this is.
Hoping somebody doesn't show up?
Locking doors. So this is that it is tabled until, so 8 is tabled until the next meeting. We are now on to 10.
Item 10.
Which is the Hoyoke Soldier Commission communication to the council regarding legislation.
Mr. President?
Yeah, can we bring that up? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to take yours up at the same time, Pete.
Yeah, I wonder if I could put that with item number
25.
25.
Second.
Taking up 10 and 25 together. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? So 10 is the communication. 25 is from Councilor Tallman. Order that the charter be amended to update the entry regarding the Soldiers Memorial Commission, striking out reference to members needed to be veterans of specific conflicts of war. At the very least, the reference requiring that there be 2 members who shall be veterans of the Second World War should be struck. So that would go to.
Receive and send the ordinance.
Ordinance, and can we send a copy to the law department?
So 2 ordinance with a copy to law. All those.
Aye.
Aye.
Would this be charter and rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a charter.
Charter?
Actually. So charter and rules. So 10 and 25, 2 charter rules with a copy to legal.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, just briefly on this. This was sent to us. It's going to have to be brought up to the state homeroom petition. There's a couple members in the charter. Basically, we stated that there has to be 2 for World War II members on this committee. Not that saying they can't serve, but that's a requirement, and it's really difficult getting people from that era, even though there's still some alive. So it just strikes that to give it a position where they're short members right now, so they could strike that to try to get other members, other veterans on that commission.
Okay.
So if we could take that up as soon as we possibly can, I appreciate that.
You want to suspend our rules and file a home rule create a home rule petition, send it to the law department right now.
If we can do, yeah, if we can, I don't, I have to see it, you have to see it in writing, right? The
Yeah,
home,
we'll send it to the law department for communication. So send a motion to receive this, refer these two orders to the law department, and has them send back a communication in 30 days relative to home rule, or last for the home rule petition.
for home rule petition for us to send forward to the State House, yeah.
Second.
Okay.
All right, so motion is to take 1025, send it to legal to draft a home rule petition to refer back to the council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yep. Appreciate that, David.
All right, 11, which is the Canon Provisions Annual Report. Motion be received.
Receive.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 12 is notice of community outreach for a meeting for,
Receive and send ordinance.
Second.
all right, motion is received, send the ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
13 is a petition for a special permit, extension for a license for recreational marijuana retail establishment at One Cabot.
Receive and send ordinance.
Ordinance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 14 is a petition for zone change from a BG
Ordinance.
to BH.
Mr. President?
Yep.
Well, just, once,
To ordinance, but.
under discussion?
Yeah.
I'm going to need a clarification on this one, either from you or from Mike. This is Kmart Plaza. This petitioner does not own Kmart Plaza. This petitioner is, I only know because I got to forward an email. He's a realtor investor. And I had an he's president and owner of Instant Hotels, specializing in acquiring assets and converting them. Blah, blah, blah. He goes on to say, we are looking to convert the asset, specifically that address, into a self-storage facility. So, I mean, we'll hear him out, but if he doesn't own it, so how does a petition for a zone change come before us from somebody that has no ownership interest in that address? Can we do that?
Well, hold on. The address might not be correct. It might be 2211 from what he got a call saying that the address was incorrect. So it might not be with regards to what you're referring to.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just letting you know what I just learned.
No, I heard that, and I saw that in the email, but that's still Kmart Plaza. And my same comment applies. This gentleman has no ownership in Kmart Plaza. So how is it that somebody has no ownership in real property can petition us for a zone change for which he doesn't have any interest in it? How does that happen? I mean, I guess I need to understand that before I take a vote to send this anywhere.
Councilor Vacan?
Mr. President, so I would just like to add some information to the discussion. I had a conversation with this individual, and my understanding at the end of the conversation was that that individual was going to go through planning and make 2 proposals through our planning department that were in keeping with the current zoning, which he understands does not include self-storage. So I was surprised to see this, and at first the number didn't connect to Kmart Plaza for me. So that is my last understanding on it, and I've heard nothing from our planning department in this regard. And my understanding was that what was being contemplated was an offer, perhaps, that would be pending if a zone change occurred, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this person is not the current owner.
All right, so
Well,
I understand what
stands.
Council. I understand what you're
Thank
saying,
you.
Councilor Riley. Why don't
I heard
we
it. I heard
instead
it.
of saying it to committee, you can table it in order to have legal come back and try and figure out what's going on.
If respectfully, I'd like to make a motion to table this now.
Right.
Just so before I make the motion, I just make a comment. So I'm not saying how I'm going to vote on this at all, but I need to hear from and this is complicated stuff, so I can't expect Mike to have an answer
Right,
or
that's
this
why
right
I'm not
now.
gonna-
I don't think that's reasonable. So respectfully, I'd just like to make a motion table and send it to
Second.
Law Department so they can explain whether or not this non-owner can file a zone change petition.
All right, so motion is the table with a request from legal to get a response to this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that's that one. President's report, due to the time, we'll save it for next one. Finance.
Due to the time, we'll save it for next month.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Let's see, 16A, Committee on Finance was referred, a release and settlement agreement between the City of Holyoke and Travelers Insurance, recommended be adopted, motion be received, adopt, pass.
Wait,
first
suspend the
reading.
rules and take up 16K at the same time.
Wait, what one? 16?
16K.
This is 16A? Oh,
Hey,
K.
K.
Sorry. K is the settlement of 432,000. So take those up together. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor McGivern.
Thanks, President. We're being asked to agree appropriate $432,000 of a settlement that came from a traveler's insurance for the, which it's right out the street, right out the front door here and across the street with the New England Farm Workers Building. A contractor for the city was doing sidewalks and did damage to the building itself and did damage to part of the city property itself. The insurance company is in agreement with the city's request for settlement. Because of this nature of this law, the Finance Committee learned that the settlement has to be the amount of money that would restore everything to what it was. I don't. Some of the details are it's a vault underneath the sidewalk that is part of the former bank building itself. The Finance Committee, after listening to the Law Department, after listening to the DPW, we are in agreement with accepting the settlement as negotiated by the mayor through the Law Department and allowing it to go into the line item known as contract services, claims, and settlement so that the repairs can be done.
So no one further. Motion is pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for A and K.
Jordan.
Yes.
Maldonado Velez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti.
Yes.
Puello.
Yes.
Israel Rivera.
C.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Givner.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve those. D, Committee on Finance was referred. Chapter 44, Section 4A, the City Council hereby accept the provisions of the fiscal year 2023 Shannon Grant, which is $566,355.26. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
President, this is an annual grant that's received by the city. It's actually a grant that's served with a number of other agencies, not just within the city, but with the also within the city of Chicopee itself. The portion of this grant that goes directly to the city and to our police department is $154,126 this year. The rest of the grant is shared with a number of agencies, including the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club, the Chicopee Boys and Girls Club, and I'm missing one other big one.
Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff's Department. Thank you, Councilor Tallman. We did go through the grant with Chief Pratt. He was present with us. He did provide us with a spreadsheet I think everybody has now. It's a good grant. In the past, we have talked about the city's liability, or I should say, with agencies not performing, and the city has no liability once the grant comes through us. We're required as the lead agency. I could liken this to Northampton being the lead city for the Pioneer Valley bicycle grant itself. It's in connection, and our police department and our auditor does work with these agencies, and everybody seems to keep it in line. All put to good use, I might add, and the committee recommends that, once again, we accept the provisions of the Shannon grant itself.
Councilor Bartley.
I can't support this enough, but the good use that the chairman just mentioned, I just like to see it if possible, in a one-page report, just like Lieutenant Pelcher put together. It's just something that, number of kids served or from the various clubs. So I'm hopeful that that's being communicated to the various department heads. So I'm going to keep on harping on that. Thank you.
We can follow up with the chief on that.
I
Usually as a report.
I thought everybody got this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just the finance committee got it.
I didn't get it, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have
We can get everybody a copy.
a copy of the breakdown of the Shannon grant.
Shannon? You got it, right?
All right, so that'll come to you. Anyone further? So motion is, Councilor Rivera.
Just a quick question. Is Roca on that a recipient of the grant or no? Because I used to work for the grant, and it used to be the Holyoke Safe and Successful Youth Initiative, and then Roca, I believe, got Roca, the Boys and Girls Club, and the police department were the ones that became the new partners once Holyoke Safe and Successful Youth Initiative became disbanded. Just because of point of clarification.
I don't think it's on this.
It's a good question, since things have changed. If it is Council Rivera, it comes through the sheriff's portion, but I
Probably,
can't
yeah,
promise you that.
All right.
But we certainly, if they apply in the future, or how, we don't determine who gets it, the state does. We just funnel it through and get it to everybody.
Well, they have to apply as a community, and the city has to approve it for the application. So, yeah.
But it's the state that says the final
the final
breakdown.
yes or no. Yeah.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading?
is passed the second reading. Clerk will call. If you vote yes, you're voting for the Shannon grant.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Rumboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve that one. 16E, Committee on Finance, who hereby accept the provisions of the Marcotte Ford Holyoke Police Department equipment donation of $10,000. Motion will be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very quickly, another generous donation through Marcotte Ford. We did have to listen to Chief Pratt talk to us about how he earned this at the event at the Lug Nut Cafe, where he outcooked his counterpart, the chief of the fire department. But I reminded him that the chief of the fire department was with us a meeting ago, and received a very similar grant. Chief Pratt, though, in honesty, is very grateful, and we all are, for a good corporate citizen Marcotte is. This $10,000, according to Chief Pratt, we have to accept it like a grant. And all gifts are the same way, and we have to establish the way our department head and/or the city, takes accountability of it. He is proposing on this particular year, this particular grant, that there's a tool that is going to be bought for all the police officers within the department itself. This is an all-purpose, for messing up the description, an all-purpose type tool, which is not only a knife, it can be used in emergencies to cut seat belts, can be used in emergencies to do a number of different things, and it sounded like, to the Finance Committee, it sounded like a good idea to put the $10,000 to use. It's not something we would probably spend out of our normal budget, but at the same time, it's a very useful tool that the chief is proposing. Accepting the grant is what we're being asked to do.
Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call. If you vote yes, you're voting for the donation.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Rumboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 16F, Committee on Finance, the State Historical Records Advisory Board Veterans Grant, $26,238, 50% match of $13,238, and $3,000 in cash and kind grant. Recommend it be adopted. Motion receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I would ask to suspend the rules and take up 16P at the same time. My apologies.
Second it.
Motion to take up P as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? P is 3,000 from Veterans Benefits Direct to Veterans Grant. Councilor McGivern.
Thanks, President. We had Jesus Pereira and the director, Megan Sealing of the Wisteria-Hearst before us. The grant does have a match with it, and that's why I forgot about 16P. But the total grant is $26,238. The 50% match is met by $13,238 and $3,000 in cash. The in-kind is services that are already in place, and the state has agreed that the city is matching the match by the in-kind service, and then the 16P is the transfer of the $3,000 that would meet the in-kind, would meet the cash itself. That $3,000 is what is coming through via the CPA grant itself. This is a heritage grant that is used for a number of different things which are directly related to veteran services. And it's something that Jesus Pereira talked to us about for about 15, 20 minutes about it. Makes a lot of sense that even though it has a little bit of a cash add to it, that we do accept it and allow Mr. Pereira to put it to good use. The committee recommends that we adopt both.
Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 16F and P as a package.
Jordan.
Yes.
Maldonado Velez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti.
Yes.
Coelho.
Left the room.
Israel Rivera.
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Givner.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 16G, that the city council approve the increased funding request of $3,000 to Wisteria-Hearst Museum for painting projects. Recommended be adopted. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had sent this back to committee. The finance took its second bite at the proposal here. I think most of us know that the CPA had approved prior year. It's been encumbered $125,000 for the purpose of repainting of Wisteria-Hearst. We all know Wisteria-Hearst has an historical building, and a good question was raised about whether this type of painting is maintenance or is it preservation. Our law department came up with a ruling, an opinion that was issued by Kathleen Degan. I know everybody got a copy, but it essentially says that because the goal here is with Wisteria-Hearst is to return, not only preserve it, but return it to its original color, and it's something that is necessary so that this historical building is kept on the rolls of the city responsibility, and that's because of the donation being made to the city by the Skinner family to be used for educational purposes. After reading and after talking with Kathleen Degan, the committee did agree that this $3,000 can be used in such a manner.
Councilor Tallman.
I want to thank a couple people, Councilor Jordan for bringing this forward on our first meeting on this, and then Catherine Deegan for doing the research, quite a bit of research on this issue to make sure that this was all done in the proper way for getting the paint done. And they needed that $3,000 to get the contract going, and now they got it, and hopefully they'll get it started and done before the summer hits.
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, just to echo what Councilor Tallman stated, I want to also thank Attorney Deignan. She's done really a great job in this area on really doing all the research to lay out all the rules and being good guidance for the CPA committee and going forward. So really appreciate her work on this so that everything works out the way we want it, and really excited that this project can go forward. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to point out that well, at least I found out that there's a new name for the Friends of the Wisteria-Hearst. It's a Wisteria-Hearst Foundation. I believe the counselor is on a member of that board, and I believe that there was a $75,000 donation from that board, from that foundation, put towards this project. Now, I'll stand corrected. The finance chair wants to correct me on that, but I believe we discovered that night. I also requested that night that a communication be sent from the treasurer, Timmy DeShays, to the city council relative to the balances of the, just so we can have a general picture about, again, I learned something that night. I didn't realize that the Friends of had a new name. It's a 501c3, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a communication relative to the current balance of what the foundation possesses as in terms of assets.
All right, so with regards to this, motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading.
pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the 3,000.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Abstain.
11 yeas, 1 abstain.
With your vote, you approve that one. 16H, Committee on Finance was referred, hereby appropriate by transfer $8,788 from TNC Rideshare to other contracted services. Recommend be adopted. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The contract with the bike, I think we all agree that the TNC rideshare program is a good program. It's these bikes that we see kiosks throughout the city. We learned a few years back when this started that Northampton, the city of Northampton, was chosen as the lead city in all this, which means they are accountable to all funds that are used in the administration of the program itself. They work with the Pioneer Valley Planning Authority. It's the Pioneer Valley bike program itself. There is a component of it that is for profit, and it kind of bothers me a little bit, but when you look at the numbers in the contract, it's something that makes sense that we approve this as our portion of the contract, and some of the money does come in through the program itself, so it makes sense to adopt it. Perhaps when it's renegotiated in the future, a future mayor or a current mayor will take a look at the contract and try to make it a little bit different.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to support this. We spent many hours in committee, if certain councilors remember, relative to locating where these stations are going to go, and my hope is it'll continue to expand. I for one, respectfully, I'm glad. I'm happy with the contract the way it is. I think it's a very reasonable sum. It's really not a lot of money, especially when it's all collected in the meters anyhow, or not even through the meters, through the app. So it's been, from my observation, and I use it myself, it's been a pretty successful asset to Holyoke, and compare what Hartford did. Hartford had that program where you just left the bike. You just took and left the bike and just left it there, and it turned out to be not a shock. It just turned out to be a disaster because people never returned the bikes, and so City of Hartford had a black eye in terms of that. But this program, with all the cooperation with in the Lower Pioneer Valley, I think it's been a real winner, and I'm glad that we continue to support it.
Councilor Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a question. Is Valley Bike still happening in Holyoke? I look around and some of the, it's
seasonal. I think they're out for the winter, yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. That's it.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just want to state I agree this is a great program, and several people utilize the bikes through the season. And you get one up at Better College, you bring it down to Cabot Street, or I think we probably have about 8 to 10 stations. And I think the auditor said in the account right now there's about $27,000 in there. So that money comes from there to pay the fee for the year. I had a call about 2 weeks ago from a colleague, one of the counselors in Westfield that I served with in the National Guard, that Westfield's also looking at doing it. Just want to know my feedback on it. I said I think it's a great program. I think they're going to have about 3 or 4 stations to start with, and I think they're going to have one up by the college, Westfield State. So just stated to him that it's working well for Holyoke, and I think it would be a definite asset to the city of Westfield.
So motion.
I could, Mr. President.
Oh, Councilor McGivern.
I agree. It's a good program. It's one of those, I think one of these votes or situations where the good outweighs what I think is questionable. And that's the point I was trying to make. I'm voting in favor of it because it's not only a good program, it's very popular. And I think there are a few winter bikes out there, but I'm not too sure. But they have to put snow tires on those winter bikes, just to get them around. But what we've never gotten is the profit part of this endeavor, what that company makes. And that's why I've always questioned that is if someone's making a profit out of this, if you read the contract, municipalities have a lot of responsibility for this program, not just where the sites are, but prepping the sites, making sure that they're on municipal property, making sure a number of different things happen before the company will come in and put the bikes there. And there are other things that the municipality does become liable for. It's a great program. I'm willing to vote in favor of it, but I just think in the future we could look at it a little bit, a mayor could look at it a little bit different.
Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Yeah, I just wanted to, with that, like I know city bikes exist in like bigger cities and whatnot. They're all throughout the whole year. So I guess that was really my question, where it was coming from, because people still can ride bikes in the winter time to get to work, which a lot of people are using it for. So I just wanted to make sure that was happening because, again, some of the stations were empty and I was just questioning that. So thank you.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Jourdain,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 16J, finance for deferred, hereby transfer $50,000 from highway HMEO to trash recycling contract. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had our new superintendent of the DPW in before us. We talked about the contract. The good part about the contract is we are going back to the MRF. We're going back to dual stream recyclables. I think we all know the importance of recycling. It's environmentally, it's the right thing to do. Number two, and when things are good, sometimes the city makes a little bit of money on recyclables. Not in number three, it's it keeps it out of the dump and out of the tipping fee for all of our trash that is put into a dump or transferred somewhere. We had to, there are a number of reasons that this, and we're not even 100% sure exactly, but a few years back we went into a different system and it became a single stream recyclable program, but essentially we just put everything into the transfer station down on Main Street and we're not making any money on it, and we're not even sure exactly what happened to some of the recyclables. So good news, we're back with the MRF. MRF is operating again. China, about 3 or 4 years ago, stopped recycling plastics. They were like the only country in the world, it seemed like, that were doing that recyclable. And the MRF was not giving any money back for plastics. A number of companies in the country have now opened up, and that's changing back to what we like to see is a good place for recyclables to go, environmentally strong, and make a dollar or two out of it ourselves.
Councilor Bartley.
Couldn't agree more. So I think the finance chair and the committee for running a good meeting that night. The scary part is that clearly there was a public works employee that made a unilateral decision to stop the dual stream. I mean, I'm not really sure how you make that decision and get away with it. But looks like it happened, and we're going to have to put that into the historical records. We're not here to name names, but that's very disappointing. The good news is we're going to go forward. We all recall Mr. Fuqua. I mean, I know Lord knows I had many disagreements with him, but he was the one that wanted to keep it dual stream. So, and he proved to be very correct in that going forward because we were able to market our recyclables as opposed to other communities that could not. So we were getting checks, and where other communities were paying tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So whether or not that's going to turn around with China, I don't know. It doesn't really look great these days, but hopefully it will turn around, as Joe said. But I'm glad we got it straightened out. One thing I would like to know, through the chair to Joe, to the finance chair, Joe, you probably you can't answer this, but can we get an answer relative to how much we actually divert into recycling as opposed to the landfill? Is that an order you think I could file and get an answer?
Councilor McGivern.
Yes, Councilor Breyer, I think that's available. Because they understand very much in tonnage would be the way that they view it. They know the tonnage that they bring to the MRF. They know the tonnage that they, put into the landfill itself. So for the tipping fees. So yeah, I think we could easily get that number. And I think we can. Maybe we should file an order or co-sponsor it and ask for it.
We'll do that.
Councilor Jordan.
Yes, it looks like we are on the path to get to where we need to be. I am troubled, and again, this occurred during my 4-year hiatus. I will say I am troubled around the transparency around this. Citizens have a right to know that when they put out recycle, what they think they're actually getting, okay? Where they think their recycling is going. And if that's something other than what they think they're getting is going to happen, there should be transparency around that, so that if I'm putting out plastic and I'm putting out cardboard or paper, is it some portion of it ending up in the landfill? Is it going to single stream? This should be run by the mayor. This should be run by the city council. Exactly. All of this should be out in the open, these type of decisions, so we can have a conversation. And is it more resources are needed, or what's going on? But to just, you're seeing that contracts were allowed to expire, or we don't have agreements, and trying to backtrack and get certain documents. And then, I asked for a contract, and the day that I asked for it, it's the day it gets signed. There was just a lot of interesting things that occurred around this that, certainly leave a taxpayer to wonder what is going on relative to recycling over the last few years. I do appreciate the new leadership, and I know we have new people on the Board of Public Works, and I really appreciate what they're doing. But if this were to ever occur again, I would certainly hope that the council would be consulted, citizens would be consulted, the mayor would be consulted, and we would have a discussion about something important like recycling. This is people, I know myself, I'm big on recycling, and I want to make sure what I'm getting is what I'm getting, and I'm sure other citizens feel that way as well. So would appreciate that in the future. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this was during Mayor Murphy, or acting Mayor Murphy at the time. This was during COVID, so there was a lot of shortages in staff, and so they used this as a way to try and simplify and make things easier to manage the waste throughout the city. I just wanted to point that out, that was during the time of COVID.
Councilor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take this moment to point out that it would be nice if we shared more information with the community in general, including this. I've gotten a lot of questions about the recycling. I've looked it up on the DPW website. I haven't always been able to find it. I think this is just yet another thing where we don't need to invite in every department to talk to us about everything, but I do feel like the departments need to put things up on their website, or just generally fill people in so that like the police department doesn't think everybody hates them just because we don't like the budget that we're working with. There's just a little more education that can go on around so many things here, to your point.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading.
to pass the second reading. Clerk will call. If you vote yes, you're voting for the 50,000.
Jordan.
Yes.
Maldonado Velez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti.
Yes.
Israel Rivera.
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. Councilor McGivern, L,
If we
M,
could
N, O, and P.
suspend the
Suspend the
rules,
rules.
Mr. President, to take up 16L, 16M, 16N, 16O, and 16R as a package for discussion. Possible vote as a package, but if anybody wants to single out, we will certainly separate them when we come to vote.
All right, motion to suspend the rules, take up those as a package. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? L is 150,000 from cannabis stabilization to OPED master plan. M is 100,000 for community benefit, public art. N is 70,000 for legal services. O is 399,000 for DPW Race Street improvement. Q is 26,000. Are we doing Q or no?
No, that's out of
Q
it.
to the side. R is 202,000 for Main Street safety project. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like any appropriation by transfer, there's two sides of a story. The common denominator here is all the requests in these 5 orders are requests that they come from the Cannabis Stabilization Fund, a relatively new stabilization fund to the city of Holyoke. It requires a 2/3 vote, as do all stabilization transfers out. We had Aaron Vega come in because Aaron's department has taken the lead on this stabilization fund itself. The good news to report, and Aaron was a big part of this report, is a process has been set up. And I look at the corner over here to my left, and they say they're all new city councilors, but after a year, you're no longer rookies, But if I remind everyone, there was a number of questions raised when some of these requests came through and other requests that came through that. What kind of process do we have to determine how this money is going to be used? The money comes from impact fees that are one time only with the cannabis industry. This money is not going to be around forever, and there are criteria, and some communities are being sued. Therefore, a community advisory committee was set up. The mayor established that. They vetted each of these projects. A legal question was raised and scrutinized, and one of these orders is a transfer into legal services to keep everybody on the up and up to avoid any lawsuits from the industry itself. Aaron did a great job of explaining all that in detail. We had total so far into the stabilization fund is $3.2 million. These proposals, if passed, can be individually, would be about $900,000 itself. Real quickly, where are they going? First one, 150 into the open municipal support for a master plan. Master plan is one of the most important documents the city produced. It is outdated. It needs to be updated. The cost of a master plan is far more than $150,000, but this would help support something that would, I think a lot of us understand the importance of it, to get it back off the table and update and actually create a new master plan for the city itself. Second one, $100,000 open public art benefit. The legal department determined, and the advisory committee thought it was a good idea, and Aaron supports it in his department, is that marketing is very important to the city. This would be one of the areas that the city would continue to market and bring in entrepreneurs and artisans, and give them places to go and to show their product. The $70,000, as I stated, is for legal contracted services, which is very important so that we avoid what other communities are seeing with lawsuits. The final 2 projects are with the DPW. One is the Race Street improvement. The other is the Main Street safety project. Race Street improvement is a much bigger project with a lot of state funding, but it essentially is another phase of the canal walk, along with some improvements on Race Street itself, which includes a sidewalk. There's a fence being put on hold for the moment, but they're looking for ways to fund it, and that would just complement the parts of the canal walk that are open. And the Main Street are at least three, they are expensive, but raised sidewalks This would be Cabot and Spring, and Hamilton Street itself. I think I think we all understand the importance of traffic mitigation of what raised sidewalks are, especially on Main Street, which was a corridor for drag racings at certain times of the day itself. Anyways, the committee supports the use of the fund. We appreciate the process that was put in place and used, and we appreciate each of the proposals where these dollars are going to.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just and I was through a chair to the finance chair, Joe. Yeah, I had to leave that meeting early, but I was there for most of it. I caught the tape. One thing I wasn't clear on, because this is $921,000, and I get what you just said. And I had notes and all that. Are we going to? So this will be about 1/3, more or less. So it's 30% of the existing balance. Just ballpark it. Are we anticipating more transfer requests? Is this going to be an annual type of a thing? I'm curious as to how many more of these we can expect. If you had any kind of
It's we didn't have a very specific answer to that, but yes, there will be more requests. They're vetting more projects that would fall legally and within the process itself in terms of how the money can be used. The reason there's a cap on this stabilization fund is most of this impact, or all this impact money, comes from the part of this industry that's known to date is the manufacturers. And there's only going to be so many manufacturers. There's only so much room. It's a one-time impact fee. Whereas the dispensaries, we get excise, is it excise tax, I think they call it? It's a form of a tax, like a sales tax. When the dispensaries will be ongoing contributing monies, not into this particular fund, but the city, I think a lot of it goes into the general fund, the city will be able to use. So yes, there will be more transfer requests coming down the road. The mayor, obviously has to, like anything, initiate it, go through the same process before it comes to us, though.
Just one more question, just through the chair to the chair. These monies, will they be reflected on the FY24 budget for these various departments? For example, the $70,000, is there going to be a line item in the law department relative to the anticipatory litigation that they're insinuating? Is there going to be a line item relative to the $150,000 for the master plan? Is it going to go to a consultant line item? I mean, I didn't hear those questions asked that night, but I just wondering if the chair has an inkling to that effect. Thank you.
No, they're good questions. They're fine. And the legal services line item is actually going to be kept in OPED, which keeps it separate from the law department, and it becomes very specific to this type of a discussion, and that being the cannabis monies themselves, the impact fee monies themselves. The master plan is part of, and should be part of the planning department, which is under the OPED umbrella itself, and that line item will be, that line item I believe is, but that line item is and should be kept in I'll find out the full answer, but should be in the planning department budget under OPED itself.
I can't ask any more than that. Thanks, Joe.
Going further on all these. Seeing none, so the motion is to pass the first reading for all as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading on all items.
Motion is passed the second reading on all items. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for all of them.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Coelho?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
For your vote, you approve that. 16Q, 26,000 from capital stabilization to equipment and R&M. Recommend that be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had Tom Reynolds, the director of our Parks and Recreation Department itself, in for, I guess would be his inaugural run as far as finance went. This particular request comes out of capital stabilization, takes a 2/3 vote tonight, 2/3 final vote on any evening. and it goes into his equipment repairs and maintenance. A lot of this has to do with a community garage room storage up at Community Field that the entire department uses. A lot of this is safety features. Tom made a detailed report that I could not repeat if I wanted to. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying you could tell he had a handle of what he was doing, but a lot of it is measuring what hazardous materials that, hazardous air quality things that go on within that building itself. There is a contractor. We have an attached RFP that went out and an attached bid that came back in a little bit of explanation as to not just the importance of this, but how it's done. Committee recommends that the capital outlay stabilization fund dollars be used for this much needed expense.
Anyone further? Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the 26,000.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Coelho?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve that one. 16S, Committee on Finance was referred that the Hoyle Gas and Electric be requested to take any necessary steps to end the gas moratorium. Report back to City Council by April 1st, 2022. Recommend that this has been complied with.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a little bit of housekeeping. Originally, Councilor Jordan's maker of the order. The housekeeping part is the gas and electric took heed of this order, and I know it was supported unanimously. And a lot of it is in much better situation since they came up with the understanding that they can expand the tanks out in West Holyoke, and it certainly brought up the leverage on the moratorium, brought down the moratorium leverage itself, and the committee agrees it was complied with through that. This remained in committee, I forget why, but we just like to do a little bit of housekeeping and thank Councilor Jordan for that order, and the message was not only heard, but a good message sent.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Councilor Bacon, then Councilor Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just want to give a shout out to HG&E for doing great outreach out in Ward 5, which is where the tank will be sited. And the good news part of the story is that it was already approved, the site for a fifth tank. That's not to say that there might not be almost 2 years of other approvals that are needed, but it really made the neighbors comfortable with the project. And I also have to give a shout out to Mayor Garcia in this regard also, because we all remember when our major problems started, when our prior mayor came out against any and all gas supply. So this is a good light at the end of the tunnel for us. It'll be a little while coming, but at least we know it's coming. Thank you.
Councilor Jordan. Yes, I also want to thank Mayor Garcia. He was very supportive of our effort, and also thank you to the Gas and Electric, and appreciate the chairman. He made a very good report and took this up very quickly, and we were able to have a really good plan that I think is going to help Holyoke for a lot of years to come and help development. I've had a lot of positive feedback from people in the commercial sector saying, sort of, whew, we have a resolution here, people building homes, you don't have to put in propane tanks and all this other stuff. So help is on the way here very soon, and we look forward to the state issuing whatever additional approvals they need to allow the G&E to do this. And it'll increase capacity by 30%, so this is fantastic. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, we talked about this once before, Mr. President, so thanks to the solid constituents in Ward 5. It's pretty amazing. And then, of course, the hard work by the Gas and Electric and the innovation by the Gas and Electric, looking so far ahead. I mean, they're playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. So it's really imperative that we continue to have the kind of leadership at the G&E like we have. And that department is to be respected and admired. Thank you.
Seeing no one further, recommended that it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? There was no public safety, no public service, no DGNR, no charter and rules, no joint committee. On to motions, orders, and resolutions. From Councilor Puello, order that in accordance with the city charter, create
Take
ordinance.
22 and 23 as a package, please.
22, 23.
Together.
Okay. 22 and 23 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So 22. When a resident is elected as a ward councilor and subsequent moves to another ward, the term ward councilor seat is vacated to ordinance committee. And then 23 is in accordance with charter and rules, create an ordinance language that confirms no sitting councilor shall become a member of another board during the term of office to ordinance. So 22 and 23 to ordinance.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 24, that from Councilor Paul, that the legal opinion currently in charter and rules regarding a seat of a councilor no longer living in their ward, please be moved to public service.
Second.
So to public service.
Thank you.
Was that just a question.
Councilor Tallman.
Was that taken up already? And is there opinion on that?
There is an opinion that's currently in our jacket.
Because I think we have two we have two orders that are going to be sort of similar.
Well, there's on two different. If I may,
Hold
Mr.
on.
President.
Councilor Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, for the record, I misspoke at the last meeting because I thought both were in public service, but in fact, one was in charter and rules and one was in public service. So if it's not too inconvenient to the chairman of charter and rules, the suggestion was to put them both together so that the law department can come and we can discuss both legal opinions on one night at one meeting instead of having two meetings on two different nights. And that would be that. And I don't, if you guys are both okay with that.
If it's already there and the maker of the order is okay with it, if it's already in charter and rules and he's got a meeting coming up, I only have one scheduled, to put that order in charter and rules. Is that all right?
Let's go the other way, so both in charter and rules.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Because he's having a meeting before I even have one scheduled yet, so.
All right. So
Well,
One's already in there, so that
Is
just
it
makes
gonna-
sense.
There's a meeting on what, the 27th, Mr. Chairman? Can you put these two on the agenda? Okay,
It's pretty quick turnaround, right, Kev?
that's amazing.
Quicker than me, anyways.
Councilor Bartley's
well,
next.
all due respect, and I don't think there's a pressing time, whether it's next week or in 3 weeks. I don't think, I'd rather just do what the maker said. Plus, I'd rather be engaged in the conversation. It's much easier when you're sitting at the committee as opposed to sitting in the gallery. So I would rather just kind of adhere to what the wishes of what the maker wrote. I don't know why we're complicating this. So I would just say stick with the main motion and go that way.
So what are we asking here?
So I think I'd just say on the motion, if he wants it to go to public
Second.
service, have it go to public service. Why is this hard?
Might take a little while to get going. I mean, for the meeting, if you want to do that way. I'm just saying, because one of them's already ruled on. One was in charter and rules about a month ago, and it just makes a lot of sense. If the maker doesn't mind, I think we should just keep them together in charter and rules because he's going to have a meeting on the 27th. And we could always zoom in if we have to. I know it's,
That's the maker.
Yeah, it's up to the maker.
Oh, it's up to me. Okay. Yeah, I mean, whatever the body wants to do.
Wow. Okay. Well, so wow. There's this.
What are the body? I like that idea. I make a motion that we send them both to charter and rules.
Second. So motions go to charter and rules. Councilor McGivern had his hand up.
No, I was just going to say we have to be not careful, but I think we all know is an ordinance can't supersede the charter. It can mimic the charter, but it can't supersede the charter. So I'm in support of let's at least start with charter and rules and see where we are.
All right.
Well, this is only on the legal opinion piece of it. Those other orders are going to ordinance.
Those already went to ordinance.
My yellow flag is still.
Oh,
we made the ordinance, but
you're
can't
100
supersede the charter.
You're 100% right, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but all my request was, can we have it in one night, whatever committee that is?
Mr. President, can we just send it to public service, please? Can we do that?
All right.
So moved.
So we want to send 24 to public service, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
So I just make a statement. I don't mind at all taking this up at public service, but then we're going to have to wait. We'll discuss it, try to get the law department in? Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's okay.
Law department, okay.
Okay.
So 24.
On the motion.
On the motion.
Public service.
And motion to
Transfer that over to
the
public
charter and
service.
rule one over to public service. And I know these gentlemen are both on public service, so I'll defer to them, but I'm just saying, that's fine. Doesn't.
So the legal opinion in charter and rules be sent over to public service.
Thanks, Pete.
All those in
No
favor?
problem.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
I'll get with my our administrative assistant and try to set this up as soon as possible.
You're the best, Pete.
Okay? Although St. Patrick's Day's coming, so I don't
Thank
know.
you, Peter.
So 25 was already done. 26 from Councilor Vacan, that the city forester removes the trees in the cul-de-sac, Sequoia Drive, constituent request, so receive, adopt,
Receive,
send out
adopt.
forestry.
And yes, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And 27 from Councilor Anderson Burgos, order that the city engineer provide a feedback to address the traffic safety issues at the intersection of Linden, Anderson, McKenzie. Other speeding through the stop sign. Recently, a vehicle was hit at the corner, so receive.
No.
Sent to city engineer.
Recently-
Public safety? Councilor.
Excuse me, President, Mr. President. So a vehicle went through a house.
Oh.
So public safety, definitely.
Public safety.
Yeah.
All right, so to public safety. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
28 from Councilor Bartley, that DPW install appropriate signage at or near 249 Huron Ave to alert motorists of autistic person residing in this neighborhood. Receive, adopt, refer to DPW.
Yeah, can I- Mr. President, that's something that the people on South Street, I referenced what we did, I don't know when we did it, 2 years ago, on South Street. We changed, it didn't read right for the family. So I pointed out in the order, and I just hope people take note of that we try to get the language right on the signage too. So we don't say children, we just say, autistic person. So at any rate, I just wanted to point that out, that's all.
Councilor.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see if that could be referred to public safety just to have a conversation on it, but if you want to just go straight to DPW, that's totally cool. I just would, and I say this as a parent of an autistic child, and I would like to learn what the not in a negative way, but like what's the language that's being used, how you're doing it so you're not offending anybody, you know what I mean, like a variety of these things. And I didn't know that we could do that. That's the other piece.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. What the resident there, and Pete kind of guided me a little bit on this too. So what the resident at that area on South Street said to me, Mr. President, is that to the president, to the chairman. So what the resident said was the child, when it was assigned child, was 27 years old.
Oh.
So she was sick of having to say child on the sign. And I don't blame her. And so that was an eye-opener for me. And so when I met with the residents in Huron, in this case, it is a child, but I'd rather just say kind of keep consistent to what we have. And there's actually two houses in that exact same neighborhood near where Joe lives. So I would happily have a conversation on another order in public safety. I'm happy to do it. But this one, I kind of want to see, in fact, we can copy to public safety for a discussion, but this one I want to see receive and adopt because they've been patiently waiting. I forgot to file it for the last meeting and they yelled at me.
So motions, receive, adopt, refer to DPW, copy to public safety.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 29 from Councilor McGivern. Councilor Bartley, sorry. That the city council both add to its tradition to celebrate St. Patrick's Day and bestow proclamations to the AOH award winners for 2023. The city council honor the ladies of AOH, Woman of the Year, Mary Kate O'Connor, and then Jay Willihan. Mary Kate is a nurse and avid volunteer for many causes, including Kate's Kitchen.
The motion is receive and adopt. It's under discussion, Mr.
Motion
President.
is receive and adopt.
Yeah. So obviously these are good friends to all of us, I think, and we're going to have everybody in as we do for the last multiple years, at the first meeting in March, including all the and Jeff is going to help us out with that because he's done the last several years to organize the various dignitaries from the parade committee, et cetera. But now we're going to add the AOH members as well, and I think that's going to, so not only going to have the pipe band here on the 7th, we'll also have the various dignitaries and the board members from the parade committee, which is humbling, and then we'll also have the AOH people as well. And we're hopeful that we'll just do this upon marching forward, okay?
Every year.
Thank you.
All right, so this was to receive and adopt. Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, if Councilor Bartley don't mind, I add my name onto that. I'm a member of the AOH and been to the last couple meetings, and they're really geared up with doing all the stuff for the parade committee, and they very active in a lot of the members with Kate's Kitchen, and during COVID where they couldn't go down and do meals one Sunday a month, they were doing like sandwiches, making them up at Kate's at the house, Ms. O'Connor's house, and bringing them down there. So they're really involved. Of course, Jay Willen really active and doing a lot in the community, and he's very, very good at the job he does at the AOH with the Treasury. Yeah.
And normally I would say refer to Patty, but she's already 10 steps ahead of us.
He's ahead of you. Huh?
Yeah, what a shock, right?
Councilor McGivern.
Just real quick, two different organizations, but two very important organizations especially in the green season, I guess you would say. And I know that, one of those award winners coming in from Huron, is going to be here that evening, so I look forward to that one. But on these two, it's a great choice. I think we should have done this years ago, and I thank Councilor Bartley for thinking of it, not just because of who the recipients are this year, but the organization itself. And the Caledonian Band, when they come in this year, they're not just coming in to play. They are the Citizenship Award winner this year, so they'll be here for two reasons.
All right, so on this, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 30 from Councilor Givner, with community support that the city forestry present its department obligations and an action plan for addressing constituents' concern, ongoing issues, including dangerous dead and overgrown trees growing on or over city property. So this is to public safety, copy of the city forestry. Councilor McGivern.
I could ask if the maker of the order would consider a friendly amendment. We do this with the city forester all the time, where we send requests for trees and things to be done. But the city forester is not a department head; it comes under the DPW. But the real reason I'm asking for a friendly amendment is that we include the superintendent of the DPW, because I'd like to ask the question in this plan: why is our $240,000 truck still sitting in the barn?
All right, so motion is to receive public safety, copy city forestry, and head of DPW.
Mr. President,
Councilor.
can I just offer a friendly amendment as well? If the maker will accept it, because for two departments, one, the conservation director was here to talk, we approved a $60-something thousand grant for cleaning up stumps, and so I think we should hear from the conservation director about trimming trees. And also, I'd like to hear from the law department, because trees on other persons' properties is a matter of state law. Now, we heard the speaker for the second week in a row from Public Speak Time come in, second time meeting, it's a complicated area law. So I wouldn't want to throw this on Mike right now because it's not fair, but it would be nice if Mike or the law department had time to consider this prior to us taking this up in committee, just as to the obligations of what the state law says about rights and responsibilities and duties of trees on neighbors' properties that impact my property as well. So I'm hopeful. So I'd like to offer those two amendments that they get copied, to conservation and to the law department for those reasons.
Councilor Rivera.
Thank you. So for me, with having the conversation in public safety, I feel like we could still have the conversation and have that through the chair to Councilor Bartley, what Councilor Butler was referring to with regards to the land and the complexities of it. I totally get that piece. But there are other, I feel like, issues that we could kind of talk about with regards to like what the plans are for taking care of the streets on Main Street, or the trees all on Main Street that are city property. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Just to go through the regular of that, and then
yes, you could.
We could do the other piece that too.
So
I got to get a second on my motion though.
Second.
You got that,
so
bro.
I say it right. So motion is
Wanted to
to
clarify.
send to public safety, copy to city forestry, to director of DPW, conservation director, and to the law department to address the tree issues for homeowners.
And I'd like to add my name to this order now. Thank you.
And adding
All right.
Counselor Bartley. And Counselor Jenny Rivera.
I'd like to, no, make a statement, that's all.
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 It-
All
it
14.
impacts
We're all in.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
And those in
And
back? All.
Everybody, all.
All those in
And all.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that's off.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just real briefly, and I'm sure you're aware of this issue that we had up in our area, up in Ward 7, up on Joanne Drive. Actually, a tree had fallen down on the berm on next to Joanne Drive. It fell on a fence that separates our street from the highway, which is only about 50 feet. And I did contact the forester. I had to contact the Mass Highway Department up in District 2, which Mr. Bartley's familiar with, and they were so great about it. They sent somebody out like within 2 days. And then the forester came out, took the tree out. The fence is still damaged a little bit, but I think they're responsible for the fence because animals or people, we were only like 50 feet away. But if there's any way to bring in the forester, I've talked to the new superintendent and to the forester about this issue, but there is an issue about trying to hire somebody with the rate, also with contracting, like we had Asplund. Now they got to look at maybe contracting possibly somebody else. So if there's any way the forester can get in on this, I think it would be important to hear it from him because I've spoken to him recently on 2 different occasions. He's been very helpful. And it's going to be difficult, I think, to get that other person for that truck, that $250,000 truck at this time. So, and if they did get that person or a contract person, it would definitely help in trying to take a lot of these trees and a lot of these areas trimmed up, going forward. So, if that can be done, an amendment to add the forester on there. to have him in.
He was.
He was? Okay.
He was. It was forester was.
Yeah, he's on it.
Okay.
That's why we amended everyone else. And a thank you to the
Bless you.
state rep's office, who was also contacted on that issue that you just referenced, and they were on it as well. So with that, we're on to 31 from Councilor Jordan.
Yes.
Order that the ordinance relative to the payment of city lifeguards be revised so that it makes we are being competitive with other communities in the highly competitive employment of summer lifeguards. So this would be to
Ordinance, please.
Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 32 from Councilor Jordan. Order that ordinance 2-61 be amended as follows. So this would be to
Also to ordinance.
all
Yep.
those in favor?
Thank you.
All opposed? 33 and 34. Motion.
Suspend the rules. 34 and 33.
Yep. Take them up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 33 is firefighters, $2,293.90, 200 on duty. 34 is $23,234.11 for injured on duty, of which for fire, 1. For police, 8. So motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we say every meeting, these are for accounting purposes. Doesn't change the salary for the individuals, but does show that at some point in time, one firefighter was out injured on duty and 8 police officers were out. We're getting close to a point where we're going to force the issue and get the report more general, but overall report about how much of an impact injured on duty has long term. Some of it is short term, but we've been waiting for some answers, and we're going to try to get them very shortly.
So, Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, I did also, I don't know if people read the report. I asked that it be sent to the city council, and the auditor graciously did that, was the cost of disability pensions in the city of Holyoke. It's almost $3 million a year for 74 people. So this another added cost. So the question is, if you were getting a regular pension versus a disability pension, what's the difference in that amount? And I think it would be a staggering amount of money. It just adds to the total of us getting our arms around these workplace injuries as as a big expense that we need to do what we can to keep our employees safe.
Seeing no one further, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading?
to pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 33 and 34.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Coelho,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve those two?
Make a motion to suspend the rules to take 35, 36, 37 as package, refer to Committee on Finance.
Motion
I'm a
to take up
second.
35, 36, 37 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 35. $200 from clothing allowance to education training. 36 for, let's see here, the State 911 Department Emergency Grant for $18,375, no match. 37 is $15,000 from Weights and Measures to in-state travel equipment and office supplies. All to finance, all those up.
Mr. President?
Counselor,
Can I just make a point?
Sure.
Relative to agenda item 35,
yep.
and we have a financial transfer for $200. So I'm just hopeful that it's I know that's per city ordinance. I get it. But wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to deal with a $200 transfer at city council? I mean, I would kind of be interested in maybe seeing if that could, if somebody in the law department, the mayor's office, I don't want to file the order, but could get us a number that would, where we don't need to have city council approval for $200 transfers. Thank you.
If I may.
Counselor Bacon.
I think usually 500 is considered
Minimum.
material, but it's
Charter,
not my
charter
area.
says 200.
I-
200.
Right, but
Is it the
in
charter?
terms of a
It's not the
contract.
Section
problem.
22.
It's a
Oh,
charter.
right.
Charter. Okay.
So I was
Okay.
just wondering if
But
that
who's
was
counting?
still holds, yeah.
Yes, the
Counselor
charter.
McGivern.
I wholeheartedly agree, and a lot further than just the $200 thing. This is not because of the $200 transfer. It's coming from personnel into
It's the line.
Expense.
item.
Different
expense.
shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we still have to do it anyhow, Joe, for $200.
No, I understand. David, I agree.
Line.
But I mean, I injured on duty. I don't know what we're doing.
We've talked about this a million times, the way this is done. This is not right. But the $200 itself, I mean, we shouldn't be bothered with. I'm just saying.
All right, so two
I-
finance,
I'm not
we'll
arguing.
take that one up.
Trust
We'll take that one up at a later date. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 30.
We're meeting on March 1st, and all these items will be on that agenda with some other items that we've been waiting for answers. And whether we got the answers or not, we're going forward.
Move forward. All right. 38 from myself, City Council President Helen Rogers.
Add everybody.
For
Todd.
107, being 107.
Everybody,
Add all.
oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Counsel-
come on. How many times do you
Counselor.
Right.
Mr.
Counselor
President?
Tallman.
Yeah, everybody, I mean, everybody probably seen the paper, but Helen Rogers, I just grabbed one outside there, 107 years old. I actually had an opportunity to spend about 45 minutes with her yesterday, and she is sharp as a tack. I mean, she actually went to school with my mother. She remembers going from kindergarten on Dwight and Nonotuck Street to the old, Highland School, which was Nonotuck Street School right across from where Rusty's is. And I sat with her, and she was so happy to have company. And she had about 25 cards. They were fabulous with her at the nursing home. But I mean, she just keeps on going. I mean, she's an amazing woman, and she deserves all the accolades and all the love that you can give her, really. So anybody get a chance, she's at room 406. If you want to drop her a card or stop in and say hello, she would love to get it. It's over at Regal Care up on Cabot Street. She'd really love to see, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, to stop in and say hello.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Got just a few late files. A is from the IBO 409. It's the financials. So
Finance.
motion received to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? B is it's a communication from the law office regarding a legal opinion regarding public employers' retroactive wages. That would be receive.
It's just a copy in finance for
Copy
reference.
to finance.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Has that
Aye.
been sent around yet, or it's going to be? Or?
I think so.
I think it's on a desk.
Oh, is it in the pile?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? C is, let's see, the chief's summary of the audit, police audit. Note with regards to C, you guys all have a copy. So bring it to the subcommittee because there's not going to be another printing of it, seeing how it's 200 plus pages.
Yeah. Public
So
safety.
You already have a copy. So to public safety, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? D is from Councilor Jordan, Councilor Bartney. The order that a legal opinion as to whether citizens can serve on more than one
Law Department.
board. So to law department, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that is it.
Motion adjourned.
Motion is to
Second.
adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We stand adjourned.